All right, it's 5 o'clock, I'll call that meeting to order. As you finish up some of those bills over there, reviewing them, just pass some over and I'll get them over to Tom so he can review them. So, you guys don't have any problem reviewing them as we move along with the rest of the business, do you?
Nope.
Okay. So we signed the warrants and the abatements. Superintendent's contract, I guess I have to, somebody has to ask to reopen the superintendent and the office manager's contract again.
I don't know how it works, I just,
Yeah. Do I hear a motion to open the contract?
Yep. Motion to open the superintendent and office manager's contracts for discussion.
second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. So now we'll open it to discussion.
I modified them to add in the 2%, every other number stayed the same.
Okay. Now, is the town funding that, Denise?
So I believe you were supposed to, or someone from the water department or board should have reached out to David. I think there was going to be an allocation to the water department in the event you didn't have it in your budget.
We were never told anything about it, so we were shocked
Well, it's
Okay.
like
the day of the
It should
town
be
meeting to
somebody.
hear that everybody was getting a raise and we had just signed a contract with them without a raise. Because we were told not to give anybody a raise, so we didn't. So we just signed the contract the same as it was.
So as you saw, what happened at town meeting, where the teachers were not willing to take the 0%.
Right.
And in anticipation of that, they were going to ask to have their budget increased. It
So,
would not have been fair for everyone else in town to take a 0%.
oh, I understand, that's,
Wouldn't have been right for us to do. So it was a pretty much last minute
yeah,
decision.
but what I'm getting at is, you can't put anything on town meeting floor that you haven't advertised before. So that number wasn't in our budget. So the town had put it in there, I don't know how, but they put it in there, so now it's coming out of taxation to give them a raise, so.
So the legalities of following the procedure were done correctly, so I'm not concerned there was anything illegal or
Okay.
improper done.
But we don't have the
But
money
it's been-
because we're still, that light on short.
So it's been, what, 3 weeks since town meeting? Has anyone reached out to David? Or
I asked that question at town
Yes.
meeting. Meredith did say specifically it was coming from the town funds. They didn't say how it was getting to us.
Okay,
But it doesn't come from the rates, that however that transfer goes, they're
stabilization.
able to transfer money from stabilization into that line item.
Okay,
Nothing was mentioned at town meeting about how we would go about getting that.
okay, has
And I
anyone
don't know if
reached
that's
out?
come out. Well, have they told you to reach out?
Have you, it's
No,
been 3
and
weeks.
so we
at least.
turned in our timesheets and corrected them to add in 2% for the guys.
Okay,
Suddenly they came back at us saying, you know,
They hadn't heard
Things-
from anybody.
they hadn't heard it from anybody, so that kind of kicked off. Then I included Linda,
yeah?
and then suddenly things, you know, budgets have been going back, sheets have been going back and forth. Nobody said how it's gonna get paid, but
So I guess if it was me, before I did that, I probably would have picked up the phone and called Linda and just asked her, you need some explanation on the procedure. And if you're not satisfied with her answer, call David. And just say, okay, we just need to know what to do. I mean, do you want me to do that for you, or?
well,
will
I've
you-
done what they've requested. They've asked for us to update our personnel sheets and send them to them, adding in
Okay,
the
and you
2%.
reopened the contracts. Now, the next concern is how that's going to be funded, right?
Right, and they
Okay.
haven't
So
gotten
do
that
you-
far.
Okay, they haven't gotten that far, or you haven't asked the question, which is?
I haven't asked the question, and I know he hasn't gotten to open up anybody's contract yet.
No, they've been opened, I was at the
Well, that
meeting.
line item, it isn't big enough, but at town meeting, they said that vote took care of it.
Okay, so I think what you should do is call David and just clarify, is that money coming out of stabilization, and is there anything else you need to do procedurally to cover your budget?
Okay, so the discussion on these two is, we're
They're
gonna
not
give,
shares,
was it
right?
2.5%, Wayne?
No, it's 2%.
2%, okay, so you get, so the superintendent and the office manager are gonna get the 2% raise that all the other town employees are getting. So we'll have a motion on the floor to accept the superintendent's contract. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Now, you wanna make a motion to,
Motion, we accept the 2% for the office manager's contract.
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Rick, you haven't approved the minutes yet either.
Oh, yeah. Everybody read them now?
Yes.
And we
Motion to
have
accept.
any corrections on the minutes?
No, make a motion to accept.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So there's one contract. Wow, that got quiet.
I'm gonna wait for Tommy to sign his name.
No, I just the,
Okay,
see,
so
I'll-
you- So you might just wanna read the wording in that, because that will come up at some point.
Oh, yeah, that's what Mr. Sully said.
So, the next thing on the agenda is hunting on the water department land. And as we were just discussing a few minutes ago, I guess that hunting has been taking place over on North Elm Street, on that piece of land over there behind John Cruz's house. So, does anybody want to talk about it?
I can talk about that because I'm the one that brought that up. Recently, we had a resident decide that hunting would be okay out back there. And they set up a blind and the whole bit. Obviously, that's within this town's property, yes, but it's very close to the houses. The kids will be going through the property once the hay gets cut, they still cut through. There's all sorts of the neighbors' kids, all have kids there. So I really don't think we should be having any hunting in that particular area on town property.
Yeah, and the cross-country kids come
Yeah,
through
they'll be out
there.
there come the fall, once that grass is cut, the kids are all gonna be out there again. I mean, even the neighbors on each side, their kids, when the grass is cut, they're all out there mornings, afternoons, evenings, you know, playing in the field like kids do.
Okay, well, we never had, we outlawed, with a vote years ago that you can't hunt on the town property because of that. Want to make a motion to renew that
Well,
vote?
we shouldn't even have to renew it, but
I know, just to let everybody know they can't hunt on water department land.
So I never even knew that was a thing.
no.
Oh, you didn't know about
No, you can't hunt
okay.
on water about land?
it? She had a blind,
No, I didn't know
that you can't hunt.
previously it was.
Oh, yeah, they shot the windows out and they put shots right through the windows down there in the other building.
I just need
Probably not
everybody to
hunters, I
sign
wouldn't
this.
think, but-
Your name and address, please.
There were hunters out there.
I didn't know, I just didn't know it was a thing, that's all.
Yeah, they used to do a lot of hunting out here, and they used to do a lot of target practicing, but it got to be a problem when they were target practicing toward the buildings instead of toward the gravel pits. So, We just had to finally throw them all out. The cops came down, and every time the people came down here with guns, they threw them out. That was years ago, 15 years ago.
So is it posted, or how do hunters know?
Used to be posted, no
That's
hunts,
the
no
thing. If
no
we- even
guns,
if
no
we-
shooting.
Even if we say it does nothing unless we post it.
Yeah, I'll buy signs and she.
Buy some signs and put them up.
Can we post North Elm Street too?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll do it, well, it'll be all the town property.
Okay.
Well, water department.
Water department.
Yeah.
We're not posting all the town property.
No.
Yeah, we don't have anything to say about the rest of it, but most of the land in town's owned by the water department, the biggest part of it. So you can put a few signs up on Manley Street too,
Yeah.
in that piece. I don't know how we'd shoot there anyways, because if he's on the edge of the woods sitting on our property facing your house, he's gonna shoot the house.
Exactly. And if he's shooting the other way, then he's gotta be on our property
Yeah,
to try to be shooting. It's not the most ideal spot, but
no,
person was relatively new to town, and I'm sure the police explained to him that it wasn't the best idea, because I took the blind and gave it to the police department.
yeah.
So the owner
Okay.
ended up going down there to collect it.
Okay, so, do I hear a motion to do that again?
You have any, well, make a motion to post water department properties,
Hunting
well,
and shooting?
hunting, should we do for all trespass, and we're talking with the water department properties, we're doing it for everything else, we might as well put it for no trespassing altogether.
Oh, I don't think there's a problem with people walking, a lot of people just walk in the woods. I don't see any problem with that, it's when they start shooting.
Well, did the ATVs up off Manley Street get into our property back there?
No, we got lucky, we were able to block them out.
It is blocked out?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, if you're having trouble with ATVs, that's something else.
Because I was thinking of that more
Oh, okay.
than I was thinking of people walking, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
Here, I've just given up because you tell them stay off the grass, you got everything back there, why do you gotta be up here?
Yeah,
And then they just come and shred it anyway, so.
I used to get upset when they used to spin around on the grass out here when they got
Yeah,
you know,
well, they're still doing it.
60 acres of land out there that they could be on there over here spinning around on a little piece of grass. So we'll face the ATVs if they become a problem, and we'll just do the shooting for now. Is that the motion?
Yeah, okay, as long as you've got them off motion
Yeah.
to post the water department properties, no hunting.
Hunting or shooting?
Yeah, actually, or shooting is probably more. 'Cause People went in there with bows, it wouldn't really be a big deal.
Well,
Although
unless
not,
you're over at my house.
well, no, unless they're too close to your house
Both can go a
anyway.
long ways.
You know, there's still is, they're probably, if they were in that back of the field, they're probably too close to be legally set up anyway.
I would think
Yeah,
so.
but this person, they just looked and saw it was
Yeah.
town property and figured, oh, I can just go hunt there, and clearly had no regard for anybody else's safety. And I think you get a few of those, I mean, there are responsible hunters, and those ones are fine, but this one seemed a little irresponsible.
Well, you won't just be on the milk house there, so 400 feet from there to the edge of the woods is
500 feet.
Yeah, it's 500 feet
500
from the
feet.
well. Yeah.
Well, there's, that's closer than that, I think.
Probably.
Yeah, that's really close, especially when the high school kids are passing through there.
Well, that's the thing, you know, in the spring and the fall, the kids are going through there all the time.
Right.
So if somebody's out there, because the kids even go through, you know, when it's getting dark out, so if someone's out there hunting, it's not gonna be a good
Okay,
thing.
so there was a motion, did you second that, Tom?
Yeah, I'll second it.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Is that unanimous?
Unanimous.
Okay. I guess you're all set.
Woo-hoo, that was easy, thank you.
Next on the agenda is Silver Engineering and a warehouse on Lincoln Street.
Good evening. Lawrence Silva from Silver Engineering Associates. I don't know how much you know about the project, where it stands at this point, But we have submitted to both planning board and conservation, and it's going to occupy the entire field there.
Do you have a thing to set that up on?
Easel behind me.
No, what have the aluminum one you said?
Probably upstairs somewhere at this point now.
Huh?
It probably got moved up.
Used to have a nice light one. We could use for that.
We get that.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so we're all familiar with the large field behind, what was described as the one behind the Shell station, right? So what's going to be occupying that entire area, but in order to do that, in order to get everybody's blessing, that what needed to happen is that Lincoln Street needed to get involved by getting relocated. So a part of Dempsey's property is under agreement to be purchased in order to allow for Lincoln Street to get relocated right through, basically between where the house is on Dempsey's and where his building is, in order to allow for there to be a direct alignment with Crescent Street. So this is the warehouse project itself. Okay, so Lincoln Street is here, and so it's, I'll go on this side because it's probably easier here. So it's 350,000 square foot in area, there's parking in the front, drainage and so forth. So our goal is to bring the water line to serve this down Lincoln Street and then basically into the new Lincoln Street alignment, which would be going in through Dempsey's area there, out to West Street, and then bring it all the way up to tie into your 12-inch main, which is at the corner of West and West Center Street. Because right now, as you're aware, Lincoln Street, I think, has a 4-inch line from 1912, maybe, or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if she gave me one that was.
So we got a 12-inch on the other end too. You gotta bring it down and tie it into
Here,
that
on the other
other.
side of this, yeah, so,
Get a flow both directions that way.
well, our goal right now is to take it, is to bring it down from West Street, tie in here, bring the 12-inch here, down through Lincoln Street, right down as far as the site, and bring it into the site, and then go to an 8-inch coming into the site itself. We're planning on putting in hydrants on the site itself, and then also to support the sprinkler system here. Now, the question is, at this point, when we do this, you know, you're probably gonna want us to at least tie into that 4-inch. That's,
I'd like to see you get out, that 12-inch isn't that far away from there, is it?
well, it's still a good ways to get down to the corner. And that's all through that area that was just recently redone as far as pavement and stuff. That was all redone from sort of this area going down to the corner. So I think there was a moratorium on opening that street anyway from that, for that distance. But that's, I would suggest you any comments relative to that, you might want to also present to the planning board, because we're going to be discussing that with the planning board on June 30th, I believe is the.
You think you're gonna have enough water there to supply that building with water coming one direction?
We believe so, but I can tell you that we were still looking to try to get the results of, I still haven't been able to get that. Those test results that were done for that 40B project.
Yep.
I don't know if you have a copy of those, that testing
never
was
got
done,
them.
because we haven't been able to get it from anybody.
You never got those, did you?
Strong Point Engineering, I think it was?
Yeah,
Oh.
Strong Point's the one that.
Jesus, I don't know where the hell, I don't know what ever happened there.
No, I don't think they ever finished it. I don't think they ever did that study.
What's that?
I don't think they ever finished that
No,
study.
they did a flow test.
They did a flow test as
Oh,
part
they
of
did?
their design.
Was
This
that
isn't
before-
for the
that was
Lincoln Street
before
site.
we
It's-
had-
But that's a big, that's
was-
a
Our
brief,
system analysis.
there's a big difference between
Well,
a
they just did
subdivision.
it like a couple of months back.
There's
This
a
was
big,
just the flow. We're just trying to understand the flow that existed at the end of West Street.
there's a big difference between, if that building catches on fire, you're gonna have, what, for rises going in that building, maybe 8 And if you have a house catch on fire, you're gonna have 1 2.5 or 2 2.5 out of a hydrant being open. That isn't going to give any kind of flow that you're gonna have for that building. That building is gonna take a lot of water to put that fire out.
Well, Mello, I forget the full name of the company. David Mello is the architect on the design of the building, and underneath him, the sprinkler folks that he's using will be actually evaluating that to see whether or not there is an issue, but I was trying to get those results from the
Yeah,
test. It was
I'm not in favor of accepting any results from that subdivision, because this project for water demand and a fire, I'm not talking about domestic water use like you would in a subdivision, or if a house catches on fire. This building is like that whole subdivision burning down at one time, if that building catches on
Well,
fire.
we weren't comparing to anything that was done there. All we were looking for was the raw results
Yeah.
as to what they actually got from it, so we have an idea of what to expect out of that line at that point.
Well, you're not gonna be tied into that, so what difference does it make? That doesn't have anything to do with you, you're not even going down there to tie into it.
No, they did, no, we're talking about the 40B project that's up next to Honeydew.
Oh, you're
ones
talking
that-
Oh, you're talking about that
I'm
one.
saying that they did a test.
Oh, I thought you meant,
No, they
I
did
thought
a
you were
recent
talking about
test on that
Scotland
main,
Street.
on that main.
I'm
All we
sorry.
wanted was the results, that's all. So that we have at least some sort of idea of what to expect from that.
Wind Water did it for them. I don't know if you have any contacts there.
Did we get a copy on that?
No, we don't usually get copies.
You don't get a copy of it, really?
No,
We put a, I know Ashley's put a call into Linda at ZBA because it was going through ZBA to see whether or not it was in their files. But it's, you're saying the engineering company on that was
Strong Point Engineering.
strong for you.
so that's gonna
We
be
Right
don't
over
get a
on
copy
Maple
when they do a
Street.
flow test.
No, not usually. I asked, but we don't usually.
So that's gonna be a 12-inch ductile iron, right?
Yeah, we're gonna be bringing a 12-inch ductile line. Now, when we get to the site, and we then make our connections into the site, there is no objection to us going to the PVC at that point, correct? For the 8-inch lines that are on site, not on the right of way. Once we're in the right of way, we plan on using the ductile. I just want to make sure that there is the option.
Is that in the regs, or else they're doing on their own?
Most of the times, most of the sites that we deal with, there's ductile on the right of ways, and once we leave there, we go to the C900s or whatever.
I got an issue with that, only that when you get onto the private property and something blows at night, like we had up on United Drive one night, they looped that whole building with a 12-inch main, and it goes in like 12 feet into the building going around. And when something goes wrong, the janitors in those places don't have a clue where the shutoffs are, what's going on. All they know is that there's this gigantic water leak in the back, making this huge hole, and the water is just spewing out. So who do they call? The water department. So we show up, and when they start putting plastic in, we can't trace it. Then they expect us to find the gates, and it's just a nightmare. And then a lot of times, they change things because it's their own property. They're in there, they add on to the building, and if it's plastic, we can't even trace it. So, I don't know, I think that, to me, is still up for discussion, whether we want ductile iron, or so we can trace it, because where we've let plastic go in, it's a nightmare.
You don't put any strips or anything to be able to pick it up on top of the line, even when it's plastic, so that you can still pick it up magnetic wise?
Well, we always had it that industrial project, anything industrial had to be, this was way back before we even put it for residential, now it has to be ductile iron steel. Industrial had to be ductile iron steel anyways. We always had that. Just because when they do their fire flows and when they start shutting them off fast, some guys don't know they're supposed to shut them down slow. They they cause a lot of water hammer, which could split plastic really easy. So, I don't know, I think that'd be a,
Yeah, I think it's, maybe you guys need to just decide in terms of, what is the position of the commission, and then provide that. So that we have that going into that meeting by the 30th. If you have it in advance of that, then maybe, if there's any adjustments we have to make to the plans, we'd like to be able to do that by that time.
okay.
Okay, so, but the reason why we're here tonight is that, as far as the bank financing for the project itself, one of the things that they require is will serve letters. Will serve letters, meaning what they're looking for is from the various utilities that are going to be connected to for the project. They're looking for letters from each one of them indicating that they will serve the project. And so they have received, they were able to get from National Grid, from Eversource, and what we're looking to try to do is to get one from you folks indicating that there is no impediment to being able to serve the project with water, and that that doesn't mean that the configuration of how the water gets there, that's still, that doesn't take anybody off the hook for that. I'm just saying, all it is saying is that there isn't some sort of moratorium for hookups to water that would not allow for water to be utilized for the project, whatever. The bank just wants to make sure that in their investment, that it's a safe investment, that there's not anything at risk. The example I was indicating earlier was in Bridgewater, the first building that had gone up on Elm Street got started, and the guy got pretty far along in it, but he didn't have power down the street. That's before the power lines got down there.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah,
I knew the power wasn't there, I saw the building
Yeah,
go up, I
it
go,
took
that'd be
actually
interesting.
3 years to get power down there. And while that project was going on, he was able to draw on a bank loan for construction purposes until a certain point in time when they started to get worried that, they didn't see the finite time when power was going to be there, and they cut off the actual construction loan at that point and said, we're not going to have any more disbursements until we see that you actually have power to the site. So to avoid things like that from a banking point of view, they look for these will serve letters. I gave Wayne a couple of examples of the ones that were done by National Grid and so forth. And we were just looking for one similar to that from you folks that we could provide to the lender to indicate that, the intention is to provide water to the project. But without, you're not committing to a specific configuration or size or type of pipe. You're just committing that water as a resource will be provided to the project.
We could provide a letter that would say that we'll allow you to tie in, but we're not gonna be able to say if that line is gonna be big enough to serve that building.
Absolutely.
Can you give us an idea of how much water the building's gonna use?
Yes. It's about 9,000 gallons per day is what's being used for the project, okay, 9,000. In reality, it's probably a lot less than that. It's probably in the 3,000 to 4,000.
Is that during construction, 9,000, or after?
No, that's after, that's for operation.
So what is the use, Larry?
Well, the use is, it's a warehouse. It's a high bay warehouse, mostly storage, not that, but they
That's
said.
gonna use 9,000 gallons a day?
Well, when you do it by Title V numbers, that's the problem. You gotta use Title V numbers, so you end up generating a number that's much higher than what your actual usage is gonna be, which means that our septic system has to be designed in that way and so forth. I think it's really like, in the 8,000 something, I think it is, for water consumption, with a 6,000, whatever, in sewage generation, 6,500 or something like that. So it's, so that's really what we have to do by Title V numbers. The reality is it's a lot less,
How many
but when you
square
need the water, you need the water for the fire protection and stuff.
How many square feet is it?
What's that? This is 350,000 square foot.
No, 50,000.
What's the tie-in fee for the sprinkler system?
So it goes off for the square foot.
Huh?
It goes off.
I know, so look, do you have a chart, we have a chart there for that.
Yeah.
Well, so what I'd like,
What's the domestic size of your water line? 2 inch?
I think that's a 2-inch coming in, I believe.
I know United Electric's had a 2-inch.
So while we're talking about this, I mean, I'd like to talk about the possibility of connecting down to that 12-inch line.
That's a letter that
However, it can be done.
Wayne just gave me when I walked in. That's the idea of what he's asking for.
That's, yeah, that's basically what I'm looking for, something simple like that.
Leave that over.
It's not making you guys commit to anything other than there isn't something that we don't know about, like you have no more water to provide or anything like that.
Depends on how the wells are going.
How well the wells are going.
Yes.
So it's
Makes sense.
a pretty benign.
I don't want to lend money without knowing they're gonna get utilities.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to. Because they just want to make sure that like, we lent you all this money, and West Bridgewater doesn't allow for any connections now at this point, because they don't have any water
Do we
connections.
split time on
You
that?
remember back in Bridgewater in the early 80s, when they had, was it a nitrate issue or something? And they stopped all water connections,
Yeah,
and
they had a
they made everybody go to
moratorium.
wells
Yeah.
at that point, in the early 80s, late 70s, and all that.
Okay, have you got any kind of design yet for the water line there? I see it's just kind of drawn in there.
Well, we're showing that this is a 12, right now, we're showing this as a 12-inch
Yeah.
connector from that West Street location,
Yeah.
okay, coming down to realign Lincoln Street.
Okay, so on each one of those, where you're gonna intersect up here on West Street, that's an AC main there, that's dead-ended, where it goes out on West. So you're gonna wanna triple gate that, all 3 directions at that point, because that feeds right off of the 16.
Right,
If something ever goes wrong there, you're gonna want 3 gates. Then up further there where Crescent Street, it makes that tie. We'd want 3 gates up there too.
right. Now, on the plans for this in here, and I take back the information, but these are actually being done by McMahon Associates, because it's part of the roadway changes.
Okay,
Okay, and we're responsible for everything as it, enters the site, but we're working together. as a
okay,
team.
well, to save us, just
Yeah.
to save you some
Yeah.
drawing, and you having to go back and make changes.
Yeah.
Every time you come to one of those intersections, you're gonna want.
You gotta be able to
Yeah, triple
isolate.
gate.
You wanna be able to isolate it.
Yeah, we want it so that we can isolate, if you end up going down the other end of Lincoln Street and tie it in, we want you to be able to isolate that end of the town. If there's a leak up here on this end, we can shut it off, up here at this intersection, but keep everything else alive, Market Basket and everybody else up there. So, and that'll also, up here, if you would want to link the pipe on each end of those with a cap on it, after the gate, so that we can bring that 12-inch. We only have a 6-inch, I think it is, isn't it, Wayne, in front of Market Basket?
It does go down.
Yeah, I think it's a site.
I think it's a 6, so we could add a lot of water volume in that stretch down there with all those businesses with that improvement there. And then the line going up in front of Honeydew, there's only a 6 up there going toward the highway. That would be good if that was, after the gate, 1 length of pipe and a cap. So later on, it could be extended up,
Or is that gonna be tied into the 6 there?
Well, that's one of the questions, is to whether or not we're gonna keep this totally separate,
Oh, okay.
or are we gonna have interconnections to your existing lines over there? So, and I'm not telling you you have to
I
answer those.
think-
You know
I
what
was
I'm
just assuming, I would.
No, where you're running it through the road and crossing through, we should have cross ties where it makes sense. And stuff.
But you run into a whole different, if you tie that in, and you've got all those houses on either side there, you're gonna have to leave them all, you're gonna tie them all, they're they're not gonna wanna tie all those
So
off,
maybe,
take them off
maybe
the
that
6 and put them
section
on the
where
12.
where Raleigh's are, maybe. you
No, I'm not
don't.
gonna tie it into
No,
it.
no, you tie the pipe
No,
into
just tie
the
the
old
main pipe.
Just make
Yeah,
a connection
so
to
the
the
6
old
stays
pipe.
live.
Yeah,
So you wouldn't be discontinuing.
Until
the
we
existing
can
main.
change
And it's even possible, if you want to do it in such a way that we have a cross connection over there with a valve there that remains closed, and you just open that valve if you want to have those connect together. I mean,
Yeah,
we've done it various ways in Bridgewater on all the ones that we've done, because, you know, I started with that first, the office building on the, across from Lake Nip back in 2000, and we ran over, across, and under Route 24 in a sleeve. We brought we brought a 16-inch and then went to a 12 because it was only a 30-inch sleeve. Brought the sewer and the water together, and then, yeah, and
So was it a force
insulated.
main?
Yeah, it was a 6-inch force main. We brought the force main 3 miles all the way up to North Street, and we brought the water main all the way to Old Pleasant or Elm Street to the right to tie in at that point. That was a 16-inch overall. And we're just connecting to that now on Fruit Street for the new warehouse that we're doing there, where the old Beagle Club was. That's where the state highway, the state
Oh, yeah.
offices
Fruit Street,
are.
yeah. Oh, is that
Down,
one?
that's Fruit Street, that's the
And what's
entrance.
going in there?
There's a 100,000 square foot warehouse
Oh,
going
no
in there.
kidding.
Okay, but
Yeah.
what I'm getting at, Tom, is
You just want to make sure that you have,
I wanna have that 12-inch with a cap on it so that the 12 can be extended. I don't want it to go into, say, elbow and go into the 6, because there's no way for us, now we gotta go back on the 12 and
If we
tie
want
in with a
continuing.
T, and you've got all this Mickey Mouse stuff. So you end up with a cap, the gate, a length of pipe with a cap. And if you wanna feed this one over here, go back before the gate and just tie a 6-inch line to the 6-inch. And then, and you put a gate, that's the way all our other ones are tied in. And then that 12 is sitting there so
Ready to
that
go.
you're ready to go. And you don't disturb any other buildings around there when the new construction takes off.
right,
And it makes it easy for the new contractor that's coming in, you show him right where the end cap is, and he starts there, and he starts his chlorination, that's his responsibility from that point on. But if we gotta go back beyond the gate, tap in with a 12, put a gate, an anchor gate, put an elbow, you know,
yeah. The only problem is gonna be in this stretch here is the ones that are tied in from this side. They're tied in now to that 6 that's
So
on
you
this
really
side.
only got 2 there, Ty.
So you're gonna have, you got a couple tie-ins in here,
and on the other side of the road.
One of those
You
is
got 2 on
Dempsey's.
the other side too, we got 4.
Yeah,
on this side here.
no, on the other side
Well,
of the
those, but
road.
those are on the other side of the 6.
Oh, you're going right out the
So
street.
we're going out in the road along that stretch.
So you're staying
So what
on,
I'm saying is that the ones that have to be thought about are the ones that are on the
So
southern
what would make
side.
sense there? Keep them in the old man or tie them into the new man?
Well, you can't until it passes.
it has to be all done,
And
chlorinated,
then
pressure
go back and
tested.
tap 'em, yeah.
Then you gotta go back and re-tap them, dig the street.
Then you go-
And what usually happens, these guys say, hey, I put the main in, that's your problem, you know, that's something for you guys to do. So,
But we're gonna have a lot of time to go through all that stuff, you
They can all.
know, at this point, we're just trying to get, because that's not all completed in terms of design at this point here. Right now, this has been submitted, to the planning board and conservation, and this is now in the process of being, designed by McLean.
okay. I'm really in favor of bringing that all the way down because years ago, before I got here, they dropped that 12-inch main off going up Lincoln Street and they dropped it off on West Street. And the plan was someday when they developed Lincoln Street, that was gonna feed that whole area. And that 12-inch goes all the way down Scotland Street, goes under the bridge over to Pleasant Street. It remains as a 12. And that would just feed that whole area, taking care of that one.
Let me throw this out. Seeing if we can get by the fact that the road was just done on that section there, and we can get past that, maybe there is a little bit of back and forth here.
Yeah.
Maybe you
We
can
can get beyond that
maybe you get
because
the developer
for
to
us,
take it that way, but maybe you can somehow adjust his tie-in fees to sort of compensate for some of that additional work going this way or
The
something.
way I look at it there is that if we had to lay that with prevailing wage, they don't have to pay prevailing wage. That would cost us millions of dollars compared to $100,000 for you guys, just because we'd have to go out and the public money it would cost more. It would be cheaper for us to let you do it and we'd replace the road.
Right.
If we had to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would be cheaper for the town of West Bridgewater to replace that road from there down, if anything, but for us to put that main in and then replace the road, it wouldn't get done for another 100 years.
Larry, how many feet would it be to continue down to our existing main at South Elm?
I'm guessing it's maybe 1,000 feet or something, maybe?
Pretty close.
Wayne,
to the
can you
full
bring
length
that
of
up?
that.
Well,
It's pretty
TV's
close to
there.
the full length of Lincoln Street, because you're not that far in off of.
Well, this is across from
That's gonna be
where
1,000
Russo's
feet
was.
in.
This is the north
That
one.
connection is
The
right.
southern one is, so the north one, you're right, this one's up, this one's after where Urban's property was up here, then you got a couple of houses, and that's where this is.
You're
Yeah,
pretty
this
close to
is, we
halfway
still got
down.
a good distance to get down there.
You about halfway down?
I don't know if it's
I don't
half,
think that's halfway.
I don't think it's
I
half.
would think it is, no?
Yeah, it's pretty
He's
close.
not even to Russo's yet there.
If he brings it up on his
Russo's is-
Oh, there you
GIS,
go.
Yeah,
Right.
He's
we
not-
can tell you how many feet it is.
So, when you look at it, this is the shading of it. Okay, so those are the houses that are on our side of the street. We're coming in with that right around in here. So you're right, it's about halfway. Now, we got still a good sized length to get down to
And
South
that's
Elm.
all the way,
That's a long
it's like
way.
2/3 of the way down Lincoln Street.
I'm not
You're a third of the way down here.
What are you saying?
But, I mean,
But otherwise, we're kind of ending up with a dead end main there, for the amount of water you're running a 12 inch.
well, no, because I mean, we could tie back into your small line.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? But if
That
you do
12
want-
doesn't tie into the 12.
What's that?
That 4 doesn't tie into the 12 on the other end.
Oh, it doesn't,
You
okay.
know, it ties into an 8 coming up by the dump, up by the South Elm Street.
So,
And that
we
eight
can
feeds
look
that
at
whole
that as
12.
what those options might be, and maybe there's a way to work cooperatively to make this happen. I know the town's been working well with the,
You'd have a ton of water then.
yeah.
You'd have a ton of
And that
water.
would actually, if you think about it, that would really help the town quite a bit with the other residential project that's down off of Scotland in the back there.
Would help with that, with Pleasant Street too.
Yeah.
Pleasant
It'd be
Street,
good all the way around to get
Yeah,
there.
because then,
Be good.
that's right. So it might be in the best interest of all parties to try to do something like that.
it would.
So
Definitely.
think about it in the context of maybe somehow with the fees or, you know, some sort of
Well, they're
trade-off or
already,
something.
the town's already doing that with the taxes, I understand.
Well, that's just on that's on the roadway and the signalization issue. It's not, that's tied to the road improvements, not so much to the actual building development, I think. I'm pretty sure about that. But at any rate, I didn't want to tie you guys up for this long. So all I'm looking for is that the will serve kind of letter at this point, this
When do you
stage,
need that by?
as soon as you can. You know, if you could get something this week, that would be
Do
wonderful.
you guys wanna take it up at this meeting, or would you like to take it up at another meeting? Can we bring it up? Yeah, we can bring it up at this meeting. Do you wanna, just so they can get their financing, but
Well, I mean, it's in the.
it's not
new business, so
approval of the main,
No, it's in the new, it's in the agenda, so we can do it.
okay?
And all we're doing is saying that the water's available.
So we're not approving the main or any of that?
Oh,
No, we're just
No, you're
saying,
we'll
just
supply
saying we'll
water.
supply.
So you get
water.
There's no reason why the town can't.
Do we put a time limit on it?
I don't know why not, if something changed that we
Because
had.
what if something changed? and
Well,
this-
if something
doesn't go for
changed,
10
we'd
years?
have, that,
If the project, if you want to add something that says, if the project doesn't go forward in 2 or 3 years, whatever you want to put.
Whatever, I mean.
Right, that, you know, that,
But I mean, something like
It would
that,
have
you
to be
almost have a
reevaluated.
time limit where you can reapprove it later. If something
reevaluate.
changes in our water system drastically, a permit, I don't know.
Or even if you just use the term and say, at the current time, we are in position to serve. I mean, if you use the current time, that doesn't put you on the hook for future anyway.
Current time up until when?
well, no, I wouldn't even put up until when, in case something happens that we, say we approve it and we put a time limit, and the month after, or a month before the time limit, we lose something with a supply, that we can't pump water anymore, that we don't have the water, might have to put a moratorium on, or maybe at that point, we tell them, no, you can't connect. But if we say a time limit, if we just say based on current water supply conditions,
There are no impediments.
we will provide water to that project. Then if something changes, that gives us an out if we need it.
I'd like to add on there
It's not a
too,
huge amount of water overall compared to things, but still,
that we're not in any way approving the layout of
The
the
final
main or
engineering.
any of
We're just
that.
saying we're supplying it, we got all the
We're
details.
not talking about the design of
Right.
this main and stuff. I just brought this so that you guys could see it, that's all.
I mean, if we take the letter, basically we're saying we don't have a moratorium, we can supply water, we'll have to work. out
Water's
the
available
details.
for the project.
I have no problem with that, but not approving the water main yet.
No,
So who's paying to redo the intersection, Larry?
well, it's being paid by my company.
It's paying to do everything at that
And he's
intersection?
looking to the town to try to recover some of what he has to invest in that in reduction in taxes in the future until he's caught up with some of it. They were hoping to get the grant from the state, when the state was giving out those grants last fall. And West Bridgewater put in for it, but they didn't get it.
So how far is the intersection, I know this isn't what you're here for, but how far is the intersection work going down 106?
that letter.
This here,
as it says,
it's
it
going
already
opposite
says
from
in the
here.
water that they have to come
down
back
to the
with
end
all
of the Dempsey
tie-ins and
property.
everything else.
Yeah, how far west and east?
So we can
West and east.
move
Yeah.
along.
I mean, just this layout here, and then there's a little bit of work.
So
There
widening-
is improvements all the way up here and this way here.
That your client's doing?
There's some, yeah, there's sidewalks,
So they're widening, like in front of, like if you
Yeah.
head west?
yes, creating turning lanes and
Okay,
so
that's what,
forth.
that's what I wanted.
Yeah, the real big constraint that kind of stops having a major change is up when you get close to the cemetery and the Shell station.
Yeah.
That's, you know, I mean, the folks in the cemetery have already got their legs pulled in. They can't go any further in that direction. In the Shell station, you really can't go too much more in that direction that actually helps the situation.
Eventually, something's gonna have to give.
It should say in there, the way
Who's the
that
first cemetery?
this is saying
Yeah,
that
two.
West Bridgewater Water Department confirms the availability of water for the above-mentioned location of their warehouse. Our water supply will not supply that warehouse. the way
No,
it
it
is.
does, they still have to put other time, they have to come to us for the time. We're just saying, yes, we have water, we'll sell them, is all we're really saying at this point. And
We have
we're,
the ability to sell.
and we're conditioning it that if things change with the supply, we can't. But we're not, it's not going into any of the details of
Subject to
the piping and
approval of
everything else.
design specifics.
And that's the
I'm
last
saying
sentence of the
subject, I
line.
mean, I know your concern is you don't want to be talking about, I don't want to be talking about the design because that's not really.
Right, and right now, we couldn't, if you tied into the 4-inch main out there, we couldn't supply that building unless you go,
We'd have
unless you
to
complete
have
the
that
12-inch.
reservoir or something. or
The water's up there a quarter of a mile away, it's not there. On Lake History, I don't want somebody to think that, oh, we have the water right there, you know, and then somebody thinks we have the ability, we're saying we have the ability to supply it if the pipes were put in.
Well, and it gives us, at the end, we're saying, subject to approval, we still have to approve the tie-in plans. Right, isn't that the last
If
case
you
of the
want to
last
put in,
sentence?
including, or requiring extension of the line from our street. I mean, if you need to put that specific, then you can do that, but I think that just saying it's not, it's not deemed, that this is not an approval of the specific design, you know, configuration. All you're doing is saying that.
Right.
You're saying that the water itself is available, not the conveyance.
The water system
Right.
designed to be approved at a future date.
Yeah.
We're not approving the water that's.
No, all we're saying
We're
is
just
we can sell them the water.
confirming we have the water to sell.
Yeah. That's all.
we don't have a hookup moratorium or anything like that going on right now anyway.
What's the warehouse gonna be used for, Larry?
The tenant there isn't a tenant yet. D. Bartello is a very big company. For the one in Elm
Hey,
Street,
Kerry?
Bridgewater.
That one's still vacant, right?
But they have tenants now
Can you
that
move
are
this
in the
letter
process.
over?
One of them is,
Can
a
I-
good portion of the building is going to be Amazon.
Oh, it is.
And another portion of it, I know that
Can you-
they were talking to Home Depot.
You did this, didn't
Portion
you?
of it.
I can send it to you.
Wayne did, I think.
Oh, Wayne, did you do this?
Yes.
There was,
Add these,
Now you get to change it.
based on,
Good deed.
he's got current.
I had drafted something like this. I didn't know whether or not some of this wording might be helpful or not. I don't know.
Well, the thing
I
is,
don't know.
look at
It's
this.
So I'll let them read it first, what I add on the bottom.
The schedule you're looking at, for us to wait till the next meeting, that's gonna.
Yeah, that's going to really
be
kind of
2 more
mess up
weeks.
him from the financing.
If you want, we can just do it now.
Well, that's what I said, do it.
Yeah,
Do it now, we might as well. I just want to be clear on what we're approving, not approving something that we're not approving.
I gave you some wording that I had, was just suggesting as kind of the direction that we were going. That's obviously what you guys are comfortable with.
That's fine.
Lots there. I didn't see what he added. Just say. Because I don't.
Yep.
Okay? Probably should have let you see it before we started in there.
So what do you have to get that from electric, water,
Yeah, we've already gotten them from electric and gas company.
gas company?
Is there 3-phase already on that street?
I don't believe that there was three-phase, right? I think they had to bring three-phase as part of it. I know that McMahon's was working with both of those utilities.
Yeah, I wouldn't, except for the greenhouse, I didn't know if they needed it or
Oh, I
not.
can't think of anyone else down that way that would be there
Yeah.
What's the projected start time on this project?
yesterday.
Is it really?
I mean, I'm being pushed to get through the local permitting. This afternoon, we had a Zoom call with NEPA, okay, because we've had to file an ENF and an expanded ENF, trying to keep any kind of EIR down to a minimum to be able to get going. Because there was a habitat issue. There's landing turtles, which are mapped in that area, just like down
That's
where
fine.
we did FW Web down that way and all on that side of the road down. In those, we had to put up, I think it was where the marijuana place was, we had to put it up turtle barriers. To keep the turtles from coming into the project.
Now, what is a blanding kernel?
It's a variety of turtle that's
I saw a
around
snapper
rivers and
turtle
stuff.
crossing South Elm Street today.
Yeah,
Seriously, I've seen them.
Oh, that's because it's their season for mating.
There was one
yeah, this is the mating season.
right in front of Hugh Gurley's house the other day. He was gigantic. And a guy was out there trying to pull him by the tail. I was
Oh,
like,
no, that's not gonna
you don't want to do that, buddy.
Yeah.
They neck it so long, he'd go right around and could have grabbed his arm.
It's like,
No, but, so, on the one that we did next to that marijuana place, it was before the marijuana guys were there, it was, a machine shop was originally supposed to go in one of those buildings. And we had to do, protective fencing.
What is a turtle? What's it take to create a turtle barrier?
It's just a 3-foot high, like, almost like either like a chain link fence with a mesh on it, or, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that has to be sturdy enough that it's gonna stand the time, but it has to make sure that, they can't get across on the other side. It's for their own safety, basically,
We must have a lot of them around here, because that's the one that showed up over on Scotland Street with the 40B is down the back.
So there's a lot of these that are mapped as being potential habitat issues. And as it turns out later, they're taken off the hit list,
Yeah.
because they find out, like the spotted yellow was on the list for the longest time. And that was next to Claremont's project over there. And they used to have telemetry, they used to be trying to see where they went, okay? And I think they found out there was only a few of them and they didn't like each other, so they weren't even next to one another. But they still monitor those turtles down in that area, and we've done down there, we've done 2 office buildings,
Where is that?
this is across from Lake Nip.
Oh, yeah.
We've done 2 300 apartment buildings, we've done the hotel, 2 office buildings, Subdivision Road, and the hotel, the hotel.
Now, Bridgewater has their percentage of affordable housing, so they don't
I
have
think
to
at the
allow.
moment they do right now, because we're doing 150 homes on Curve Street.
So after that, you've met your quota.
Well, I think that they're at that now, that,
But all it takes is one other subdivision throws it off and you gotta allow another one, right?
yeah.
Doesn't take much.
They sometimes, I don't know what they'll do, if they'll turn one away or not, I'm not sure.
Those are single-family homes down Curve Street,
Yeah,
150?
yeah, nothing affordable by what you and I think affordable is. They're expensive.
Are you folks here on this project here?
No.
No?
They're all waiting patiently for me to get the hell out of here.
We're here with water.
Water,
Oh, you're on drinking water?
yes.
Okay. But I just didn't know if you wanted to say something about this. I didn't know what you were.
We're just waiting for that paper, right?
Yeah, we're just waiting for that paper.
What size of the lots those 150 houses are on? You know?
Those are small lots,
Like
those are I think,
13,000.
10 to 15,000 square feet, most of them.
And what's a lot in Bridgewater, what do they require, 30,000?
Well, normally Bridgewater goes from 18,500 up to 1 acre. Okay, mostly 1 acre lots.
What'd you say those are, 8 to 15?
They're like 10 to
10
15,000
to
square feet.
15,000 square.
And they're good sized houses on them. There are some smaller houses on them, but they're all up there in price, they're pretty high.
Oh, yeah?
But we've had to, for storage, we designed a sewage pump station on that property and ran sewer half-mile up to the Water Street pump station, and we're doing upgrades to the Water Street pump station now. Because that one needed all new pumps and everything for that project.
10 to 15,000.
How's Gary coming, you know?
Yeah.
Faster than I do, trust me.
Larry, what is the date of that planning board meeting you guys have on this?
We're
So
scheduled
we
to
get
be
stuff
before
to
them on the
them.
30th. Yeah, so I would say if,
So get something to them.
if you can get something to them, maybe at your next meeting, craft something that says
Yeah.
what you guys are looking for as part of that. Because I know that the planning board would like to try to move things along and be thorough, but move things along if they can. They would like to try to break ground on this project in the summer here, so.
What used to happen, and it doesn't always happen, the planning board would do all the drainage, look at the parking and the streets and the roads and everything. But when it got to the water, they just they had it on the blueprint what they wanted, but the planning board used to send them down here to meet with us to finalize, the configuration of the water
I think
mains.
you guys have a set.
Hmm?
You have a set.
Yeah, I just received that.
We provided the town with sets of all the plans. I just noticed.
No, I mean, when you get done drawing what you're gonna do there, that's, because if we approve the water mains, and then the planning board changes the driveway, it doesn't do us any good to say the tie-in is gonna be here. They just move the road,
Right.
So they used to approve everything they wanted, and then we went over what side of the road we wanted the water main on and whatever. It used to work out pretty good because, we just went over where the gates and the hydrants were gonna go. That was basically it.
Yeah, and even if that's it, even if your letter to them is that we have no objection to it, but that we ask that, that the developer, basically come to the water department and get approved the specific configuration.
Like specific things in there also, like if we are gonna require Dr. Loomis' site, and that to them, so they have it. If we want to have a consultant run the water model to show, because you're going off the fire flow test from a distance away.
No, they're gonna use that as a data point, and I'm sure that the sprinkler company that's, I think he's gonna do other pieces himself. But he wanted it as a data point to know what it was at that time, and then also to do it now, so we have, his own data too. But he, no, he's not gonna rely on that data as his final design.
Perfect.
You make a motion to.
Well, I was gonna let him read it first, just to make sure that that satisfies what he wants.
You know,
That's perfect.
So I hear a
Okay,
motion.
make a motion, we sign that letter and send it off for the development on Lincoln Street.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
So do you want to just do-
No, I'll just take a copy of it.
just something.
We'll make copies of it, and then he can take one with him.
The whole thing. It wasn't.
Walk up, just put this back.
Yeah.
But I mean.
Because I don't need one.
Larry, I'm State Representative Michelle DeBlanc.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good.
I'd love to be able to talk to you about this project.
Sure.
at some point. Thank you so much.
Okay.
This removes the curtains.
Ready? So Arthur will say he's gonna make that. Tom will say it's his name.
Now, are you gonna need an original for your purposes, or a copy okay?
Well, I think I should get the original at some
Okay, we'll
point.
give you the original.
Yeah, and then,
We voted for the bloody thing that didn't stay for us.
Well, thank you for coming in.
thank you, thank you for fitting me in.
Well, I was wondering.
Now, once you get on to the rest of your stuff.
Taking it busy, Larry?
I'm supposed to be slowing down.
Right.
It's only 69.
Are you really?
Yeah. Thank you.
Is that the original you gave us?
I'll run with it,
Okay,
any
but-
change in your.
It happens to people and more.
What's that,
It
yeah?
happens
I'm
to
saying
people.
for
We did 3 years ago.
75 later.
And more
We
work.
can't get out.
I
That
bet.
was more, I think, mostly.
We got it.
Keep it going.
I see you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so the next thing on the agenda is stations 1, 2, 3, and 4.
So that would do with the treatment plant and the treatment plant.
Yep.
So Art and I did meet with Tatter and Howard, and there was another gentleman there who kind of impressed us. So I reached out today, and James's mailbox is full, I couldn't leave him a message. I left him an email, but he hasn't gotten back to me, but I asked him to expedite flipping Manley Street over so we can get moving on that. But I have heard from DEP, talking with them today, that it takes 6 to 9 months, even if you get moving engineering-wise right away, to get to construction. And that's if the media that you're gonna refit your plants with is even available.
So, get me up to speed here, man. What are we talking about? Retrofitting them?
Manley Street to treat for PFAS.
See what we need to do to retrofit it?
Right.
Because they were pretty good at the meeting here as far as what they were talking about, options and
Right.
things, but I don't think we've heard back from them yet as far as coming back with
No.
a proposal. They were talking about piloting and other stuff,
Right.
and it's the kind of thing we need to be moving
So
on. We
let-
know we're borderline on that.
Basically, it boils down to a cost-effective way of treating it at this point.
Right.
But didn't we feel that it was coming from a buildup in the mean sand?
Right.
It's not actually that high in the well because,
Well, it's close, so it just builds up in the media. The plant's been in operation, it was in operation before I got here, so probably about 17 years.
What is the difference between raw water? and
I think
finished
it's
water?
longer than that.
What?
What do we have for a difference in PFAS from raw water to finished water?
So we're probably about 0.5 higher.
On the finish,
Yeah.
so it's only 0.5.
Yeah, but it's you're right at the point. You're bouncing at the 20,
Well, I
just
understand where we
around
are,
the
we're
20.
right there, but it's only a 0.5 difference on,
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's something's coming out of the plant, but it's not like the plant's the whole problem. And the
Right.
only way they
Right.
can tell, because out of those 6, the best treatment isn't the same for each one of them. The treatment that works for some of those 6 compounds doesn't necessarily work for the others, so they've got to look at which ones have to come out and figure out which process works better.
right.
And then, depending on what they decide works, some things we might not be able to do there. They, like reverse osmosis, you have to get rid of the waste stream. We don't have any place to get rid of the waste stream, because it can't go into the ground.
can't go in the ground.
And so if they can't use that, which gets most of them, they might have to look at other ones to see. Again, they were talking about that at that meeting we had. We just haven't heard anything back from them.
But I
about
pulled raw
six.
water samples so that they know when they refit the plant what they'll be treating
So
for iron
who's gonna
and
be our
manganese.
representative now, Tater and Howard?
So it's still, there's like a consortium, they all seem to be the vice presidents, owners, or whatever, but the gentleman that we saw, he's more hands-on, he was really knowledgeable.
So is he gonna be our representative, like one guy we deal with?
If we can get to him,
More than likely, it's gonna be the younger guy that was here.
James.
Overall was the first contact. The guy who'd be working that project would be, I don't remember his name,
I don't.
but that guy is their treatment specialist. He's the one that deals with, and he's chasing the
I mean,
PFAS stuff.
it'd be nice to have
down.
one representative from the company, like we've always had, like George Allen, or
Right,
we had,
Pat.
Patrick, who's
Patrick.
excellent.
right.
And now we don't have anybody, so it'd be nice, even if he's not the specialist designing whatever we're doing, it'd be nice to have one representative we deal with.
Well, the one they said was going to be in charge for, as far as coordinating all of our stuff, James, I think his name.
Yeah,
That's the person who's basically would be taking over the oversight, the servicing West Bridgewater,
Doing what Patrick did.
doing what Patrick did. He's not, but then he's not the guy for PFAS. so-
Right, no, I understand that.
He passes the project off onto somebody else in the
Yeah, but
office.
he'd be our point of contact, and then if not, if we didn't feel we were getting proper service, the woman who was the co-president that was here that night, that's who you would go to.
A good middleman that knows our system, that communicates back with them.
Well, that's the guy who we should be dealing with. But again, what was that? How many weeks ago now?
so that was probably about 2 or 3, it was after the meeting.
He's probably
I don't
got,
think we've heard back from them since.
No,
well, he's probably got a big issue where Pat passed away, trying to catch up with all the towns that he was working with, trying to get everybody.
well, the problem is, we're not the only town, and almost all the towns are failing out.
They've
that's
gotta
what I
be
mean.
buried with this.
Well, and that's the problem. We have them come in here because we didn't want Little West Bridgewater to be getting left behind, because we're not the biggest, we're not the ones that are gonna be generating as much money. And they said that they would take care of it, they'd keep us up on it. We need to tickle them and
Right.
see if that's gonna be the case.
So hopefully, try to have this guy, talk to him and see if we can make him our main contact. If even he passes the project off onto somebody else, at least if we have an issue with it, we could go back to him and he can talk to
Right, we
people in
need
his
somebody to
office.
give us answers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it seems like we haven't gotten any service since Patrick
Right.
left.
And we let them know that. I timelined all the projects that were sitting there.
And have you told them that can you tell them we want a guy that,
Yeah, I can tell him. I'm gonna meet with
Tell him
him.
what we
He's
want,
coming
because that-
Wednesday. I
I mean,
can see a
before you
reason
could talk to
behind it.
Patrick and you'd get an answer, you'd get
Yeah.
something.
Right.
Yeah,
Not called in, nobody's calling us back. nobody
And
calls us
George
back.
Allen used to do the same thing. George Allen was our contact, but a lot of times when we were drilling a well, another engineer from the office would run that. If we were building the iron removal plant, it'd be a different engineer
If you
that.
had questions, you got your answers, you got
Right,
something.
but we always had a contact with George, and he talked to the people in the office. We never had to really,
Yeah.
you know.
All right, there's a break, speak.
I'm here about the water, obviously. My cousin does water treatment. He actually cleaned up the water in Weymouth. Remember a few years back when you couldn't drink the water, you couldn't bathe in it? He owned his own company. I don't know if he now works for someone else. But I can give you his contact information if you don't have anybody. But he told me to ask you, what are the specific PFAS compounds? What are the levels for each specific PFAS? And he said there's 6 of them, and what is the treatment plan, or we've got to get a new water source?
We're not gonna get a new water source because all of our sources have PFAS in it.
Okay, let me stop. Now we have the one of the selectmen here. Let me just, I don't know, Denise, if you're fully aware of all this that we're involved with here, but your office received through David Gagny, 6 months ago, a year ago,
Probably
8
like
months ago,
a year.
a while ago, we received a letter that DEP was gonna put up money to test for, it was an additive it was used in fire, and fire foam and stuff like that.
Compounds of PFAS.
And, but if they were going to test for it and pay for the testing, then we would have to agree that we would immediately treat for it. So otherwise, we were gonna have to, within a year, we were gonna have to test for it anyways.
Yeah.
So we said, all right, well, we'll take the free testing. So, we had a meeting with David Gagny and I don't remember who else was there. Were you there, Wayne?
I
When
don't.
we did the video?
Yeah, the guy from DEP.
And so then we brought it back to the board and we had a video meeting. And I asked them at the time, if we do this, where is this actually coming from? We don't use foam. The fire department uses water to put out fires. And they said, well, it's not actually just in the foam of the fire when they're putting out fires. It's in clothes, rugs, furniture, everything that we wear. So I said, well, how's it getting into our water supply? They said, well, every time you wash your clothes, it comes out and goes into your septic system and it goes into the groundwater. So I said, so you must have outlawed this additive. If it's that dangerous that it's polluting the water and causing all these problems, it must be outlawed now, so it will be reducing in the environment. They said, oh no, we didn't outlaw it. We're not going to outlaw it. So I'm like, wait a minute. You're telling us that we have to treat, and it's going to cost us millions of dollars for each pumping station, so water rates are going to go sky high, trying to take the stuff out, and you guys are upstream in the river dumping the stuff in. And you're not even slowing down dumping it in. So I think it's up to the Board of Selectmen to get the state representatives
I'm
to
right
say,
here. I'm the state
okay,
representative for West
to
Bridgewater.
say, you
So
know,
I
wait,
accomplished step
time
one.
out.
You did.
time out, you gotta either pay for this, or you gotta outlaw it so that we can get a handle on it.
So Rick, I hear what you're saying, but we are not the only water department or community dealing with this. The state changed the level of PFAS, approximately a year ago from 70 to 20. They didn't consult with anyone as to whether or not you had the ability or the finances to handle this. But again, this has nothing to do with her question. So I would be glad to have the dialogue
But
with you,
we-
but I
we
think she deserves
actually-
an answer.
We actually get in the reports that come back from the state, or from the lab rather, it gives each compound and what the breakdown is. We don't have them off the top of our head to say to give to.
You can just go up on the
Look at
town's
it,
website.
but
We'll
it's-
post
That's
them
what's
there.
on the water department website, and I don't see the numbers there.
We posted like
I posted-
6 reports up there.
last week. It's under,
So
it's
you
got
don't
its own
have that
category.
information.
Andrew, what?
I do have it, but they're all up there, they're all publicly,
What tab? I think it
There's
can
a
be.
PFAS tab on its own.
PFAS.
their names I can't even
Under the water
specifically
department.
say, they're
Huh?
they're ugly names.
Could you give
Yeah.
us a breakdown of the
If this stuff is so
different,
dangerous,
wells?
how do we have our babies sleeping in pajamas loaded with this stuff?
And,
I don't understand it.
and I think that's something that definitely needs to be dealt with, or at least addressed by the state federal as well. I
Yeah,
mean, because it's not just a Massachusetts issue.
Well, the
but Massachusetts right now is the only one pushing it.
Any of this.
I'm sorry.
Except the federal isn't making these changes.
The federal government is not
The
making
federal
us
is
do it.
still at 70, the federal is still in the
DEP.
health advisory. It's a few states, particularly in New England, decided to go this way. So
Could you answer her question? Is there any way we
I
could
We
just?
have- we
found
just
the
told-
papers, but it's like Chinese to me, sorry.
Well, we
But
just said what.
Is it dangerous? Should we not be drinking the water?
Well,
No, you can, this is why information is sometimes is not a particularly
Yeah,
good
this
thing.
isn't clear to me.
Because they don't give out all the information in the context. The actual, if you go on mass.gov and search for how to interpret the PFAS numbers, they actually have a sheet that describes that. The number at the 20 milligram per liter, or nanogram per liter MCL that they're talking about, they specifically say in there, unless you have a specific medical condition that you'll be compromised for it, there's no issue with drinking that water. It's a lifetime exposure. It's right in there. There are people that might have an immune compromised system, something like that. At that lower level is where they are saying you start to think about whether or not it's, and even then, they're not saying it's not safe at the low level that they set. They set that as a safety bar. But they put these numbers out, and they put the numbers out on the state website. We spoke about this. They put numbers up, they don't give any context to those numbers, so when people go on and look at it, they don't understand it, and they rightfully get worried about it.
And I don't understand how you can go to Rhode Island and drink the same water with the same numbers, and nobody's doing anything about it, and everybody down there thinks, oh, water's safe down here, we got great water. And Massachusetts is the only state that's forcing the towns to do anything about it, but at the same time, nobody in the legislature has said, let's outlaw the stuff. If it's that dangerous, if a group said it's dangerous,
there are bills, and I support the bills. So there are bills, many bills filed around PFAS, and there's a state level action plan to address it. And I'm happy to work in partnership with the board, getting money to do that. And it will be great to know as much as we can know about it, so we can work to,
Right.
solve the problem.
that's what we need.
That's what we need, because there is an issue. There's, the science isn't in agreement about the cancer risk and different things. So it is something that if we can get money to fix the problem, this should be a priority, in my opinion. So I understand where you're coming from, but I have the opinion that it is a danger. And, I would tell my loved ones not to drink PFAS water. So, I mean, why not? If you can avoid it, why not avoid it? It just makes sense for health.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, 48 Columbus Ave. I understand you guys got money rolling for, treatment, long-term treatment. My thing is you got dry, hot weather coming. After talking to Jim McLaughlin from the DEP multiple times last week, he said that spikes your level quite a bit. What is the short term? Do we have anything in place short term to keep the public from drinking clean water, to keep the public drinking clean water?
So the town only appropriated money for engineering.
Okay?
That's
it.
all that was asked
That's
for.
not treatment.
We're just in the beginning of looking at
But
it.
engineering, no, I understand that, you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
we're just looking.
The print, do
We're-
what you gotta do, but
Ju-
if you test over, is the town gonna get clean drinking water?
Wow. It takes a long time to go from finding out about it, getting the money to do the testing and get the testing done, and then to get the money, then to figure out, we don't even know what kind of treatment. We think it might be carbon, how it would be added to the treatment plants, and we don't even have at some of our well sites treatment buildings to put a treatment plant in. We'd have to build a whole treatment building. So if we gotta go out to bid for millions of dollars for 2 or 3 pumping stations, we gotta get funding for it. We gotta get designs for it. We don't even know what type of treatment the engineers are gonna tell us. So for short term, we don't have anything.
Something's gotta be done, right? I mean, you're talking about restaurants, schools,
Hey,
residents. I
you
mean,
go to Rhode Island, you go to Connecticut, New Hampshire, Vermont, you get the same water. You got the same water with the same chemical.
but a law is a law.
The law is the law, and if you go through a lot of what's in there, as far as what the effects are, they have limits that you hit, you have to do certain things. Whatever, when we.
We haven't hit those limits
When
yet.
we hit that point where we violate the MCL, we'll comply with what the DEP regulations are. If we got a high enough spike that it looked like one was a serious problem, in all likelihood, we'd end up either minimizing or shutting it off.
Yeah.
But they also talk in the DEP regulation about blending of the different water sources. What we have here is stations in this area have PFAS in them, but they're well below the contaminant level. The one that's pushing it, that's close, is the one over on Manley Street.
Yes.
So out of the
even-
6, only 1 is pushing it?
Yeah.
Or how
One-
many?
one-
Out of 7, 2.
Out of 7, there are 2.
Out of 7, 2, but those 2 feed through one place. It actually enters the system in
And
one place.
our feeling on that is that it's an iron removal plant,
Thank you.
and we're catching this chemical in the green sand that removes the iron. So when you tested before the iron removal plant filters coming out of the ground, we're good. After it's been treated, it's higher. So what that's telling us is it must be building up a concentration inside the iron removal bed and then releasing it on the other side. So he's been backwashing it more often to try to get that chemical out rather than,
Your numbers were higher after treated?
yeah. Because we're not treating that chemical, we're treating iron removal.
Yeah, no, I.
So, but it seems
So
to,
isn't it
which
because
nobody knew this, nobody understood this until we did the testing before and after, that our numbers were actually higher after than they were before. So if you're taking the water out of the ground and they're not as high as they were after they've gone through the filter, that tells you only one thing, it's stuck in the filter. So, you know,
Can I just add to that? So the issue that I read about it, and I'm not an expert, is that when the water goes through the treatment process, you remove a lot of other elements in the process, but you can't remove the PFAS, so it becomes a higher percentage in the water because you've removed other things from the water, but you don't remember. So do you understand what I'm saying? So the volume of the water goes down, but the PFAS remains constant, and you're taking out, because you're taking out other stuff and through natural evaporation of cleaning the water. So that's how I understand the PFAS gets more concentrated in the water. Does that make sense to you guys? Because that's what I read.
So the media we have doesn't treat for PFAS,
Right.
but it can stick to the media we have.
And so you understand what I'm saying, because the volume after treatment is less, the PFAS would be a higher percentage, and that 2% would,
Well, it just builds up, it's sticking in there, so
Right.
so when we remove that media from that plant, when we eventually change it over, that's hazardous waste.
Right.
We're gonna have to pay a lot to get rid of it.
It sounds
Yeah,
like as it sticks more to the media, your amount
Over
is going to
time,
build up
some
over
plant's been in
time.
operation
Just
17 years, but
yeah.
PFAS just came out just a
Right.
few months ago, and they made the law. So now we're trying to meet the law with something.
and
that
the
we
thing
hadn't
is,
suddenly
we haven't,
came.
the engineers haven't even really told us that, the idea was maybe we'd use carbon, is that right?
We need to see
Charcoal.
what would
What,
work.
we don't even know what
That's
we're gonna
the
be
problem.
treating it with.
So, can this, Carrie just handed this out, it's talking about a February sample that was corrupted at 20.8. But I thought I also read there was a December 28th or 29th.
See, I
sample.
don't have track of the samples. The early ones went straight to the state.
Okay, but this was just in December, and that was over 20, I believe.
Yes, and it got corrupted.
So the February and the December were both corrupted?
I can't tell you because I don't know what they are.
Okay, so let's assume I tell you, there was a December 28th sample right around there that was over 20.
So I'm working directly with DEP and currently we're in compliance.
Who was
Okay,
your
Wayne,
contact?
you're dancing.
So that
Well, all right,
was,
well, I talked to Matt about the December ones. What happened in December was the sample had a problem. They found that the sample had a problem. They retested the duplicate sample that was taken, and the numbers were down.
Okay,
Okay,
Okay.
that, and if, again, I know I went off about the stuff on the websites and the notice, but if you kept looking through, and it's not easy to, you would have seen the subsequent samples that tested lower than that one
no,
that
I
you're
did go
referring
through
to.
them, and I was very confused, because it
But
kept being
that's-
emphasized, no,
Right.
just February. So if somebody had pointed that out.
But that's the thing, there's nothing there that gives context when you go in to look in those,
Yeah.
at those numbers.
So
But if
how many samples do we need to have over 20 before we would land in a situation like
it's a
Wayland?
quarterly average.
Okay, so what's the target number to go into?
Well, you have to be over 20,
How many times at once?
3 times, but it has to be, it's an average.
An average,
Okay.
all three have to average
So
a
if we
quarter.
bounce around,
Over
you
20.
won't hit it.
But we haven't quite hit that number, but you see, the
So we don't want
engineers,
to.
We're aware
we're
of
talking
it.
to engineers, and the engineers are saying, well, we think we can take it out with carbon, but we're not sure what we gotta use to take it out. So the treatment, you can't just go out and start building $1 million treatment plants and not even know what you're treating them with, you
I
know?
understand that, say you shut down Manly Station, everything like that, which you might have to do, I mean, that's a,
If
can you
we,
increase flow from all these other, are our water, is the water gonna be more yellow and unusable?
oh yeah,
You know, and this is what I'm
Definitely.
saying, so how do we get water? I mean, do you guys have to sit down with the board of selectmen and Gagny and figure it out? It's,
no, because where are they gonna come up with water?
You're ahead of where we are even at this point. We're still working on trying to figure out what can be done with something that's just come up.
yeah.
You can't just get water. We don't really have, and anything we'd do to try to get it from somebody else, if we had connections, would cause just as much problem with the water quality as trying to push excess water out of the other stations. What we're gonna try to do, we're gonna keep testing, doing what we have to do over at Manley Street, keep our fingers crossed, frankly, hope that it gets us through, and then look into things like, again, DEP, as far as the overall system, they also look at blended amounts. So maybe Manley Street's a little bit high, maybe there's something we can do in the system to push the water so that we get enough of a blend that it gets the drinking water for the people down. But again, it's not something you can just sit down and say, oh, it's gonna go over, we're gonna do this, and everything's gonna be the same. There was
We're
only
right
so
now
much
building-
water out there.
We're building a replacement well and a new well, okay? And we've been 3 years in paperwork trying to do both.
How much are they?
Huh?
How much would the replacement well and the new well cost?
The replacement well, I think, is 700,000.
700,000?
We're like 28 months into it, they're just gonna do a flow test beginning tomorrow, which means they can then size the pumps and then do the electrical engineering.
Is the water been tested in these wells yet?
And then the new well, we haven't even got DEP approval for that, right?
No.
What site we can even use yet, that's been years.
Is the stream?
And we're probably gonna be $1 million on building another well. So the paperwork, we started years ago in anticipation of needing more water. And, you know, there's nothing we can do. We can't just go build a well. If we run out, it's just not gonna happen. You just can't go build a well without DEP saying you can build a well. So, we have started, it's not like we are not doing the paperwork and putting the money into it, and we are. And at the same time, we got sideswiped with, after we started to replace the well, build a new well, we all of a sudden got signed backtracked with, we got this chemical in the water that we're not adding it. It's coming from somewhere else, but they're still adding it. That's what bothers me. And we could reduce these numbers if they just stop using it.
So is retrofitting the existing plant a Band-Aid?
No,
No.
it would be the permanent solution for Manley Street, it's just, and that's why you kind of have to figure out what it is you really need to do there. A Band-Aid would be to say, fine, take all the green sand out, replace it,
Yeah.
see what happens.
So what's the
Because-
total cost of retrofitting? What do you
We
think?
don't, you don't
Yeah,
know,
No.
no idea.
No way to know.
Hundreds of thousands, a million, you don't know because it depends on
They have
what
to vacuum
they
it
have
all
to
up,
do.
haul it all
It
away, and
depends on
fill
what-
them all up in
you might-
layers.
You might have to put an addition on the building, depending on what they say that you need to do. And it comes back to the lady's question about which specific compounds, because different compounds get treated differently. And I don't know the numbers off my head. I've looked at the breakdown, and there's a couple that are very high relative to the other 4 that they actually test for. So if we put the wrong one in, we'd be wasting the money, we're not taking those things out. Or we'd be taking out, you take out the 3 little ones and not the 2 big ones, it doesn't do as much good for you. That's the purpose of the engineering money that we asked for, to get them to test that. And then, because again, you could spend hundreds of thousands of millions in, it is a permanent fix for that station until they find something else we have to treat for. But it's definitely not a Band-Aid to
So
retrofit, that's looking for the solution.
It'll
We have-
retrofit at that station, but what about, now you have other wells,
But the other wells aren't close.
they're low right now.
Yes.
They're PFAS.
So,
But we don't know how this particular well became such an issue, or do we? Do we have an idea as to
Well, it's
where?
fed from towards the Brockton area.
Maybe because it's
But
along
they're
the
all
highway.
fed that way, but it's along the highway corridor. Just the same, our sodium levels are through the roof because of, the town uses salt and the state
Yeah.
uses salt. We
Yeah.
really need the state to stop salting the heck out
Well,
of
that's-
in Gretchen 24.
So if you do the retrofitting, what would it take to resolve the issues with the yellow water coming from the other wells?
That's
Totally separate.
Right.
yeah, totally separate, has nothing to do with this.
No, I know that. I understand that
But that's what you
completely, but it's
appropriated
still.
at town meeting, engineering to look at another treatment plant in
We
this
agreed to
area.
it.
If we
Exactly
shut
what
down
we're
the
at.
treatment plant up on Manley Street, you're gonna have a lot of dirty water,
Right.
because he's gonna be using the dirty wells a lot
And
more.
that's what he told me. He
So there are
said
more
that.
than 2 bad wells.
He said
No,
that
it's
if
not.
it's not bad, it's high in manganese and iron. But
And we
said-
just asked for engineering money to
Okay.
look at a treatment plant for these wells for the iron and manganese.
So the
That's the
reason-
other one of those articles that we just got approved.
So the reason I'm asking is because you have a state rep sitting right here. So we have a serious yellow water problem in town. I think we all agree to that. There's several wells. And if you shut down Manley Street, it's going to be a horrible
Well, we haven't
situation.
had,
So seeing how
it's
we have
not
state
serious
rep.
because we haven't really had any complaints.
Oh, Wayne,
I've gotten complaints. I've gotten
You-
complaints. And I'm
We're
like,
sitting here,
I'm
our
the
phone's
most
really not going
distanced.
off.
well, I
From
told
this.
you about my house. I fill up my jacuzzi and it's lemonade, or not even
Right.
lemonade, brighter than lemonade color.
We got them water, there's no, we're not gonna down.
Yeah, we don't need to debate this issue. We all know it exists, please. Let's not
And
even
again,
try
we're
that.
s-
But
we're
again, you
starting
get a state
the pro-
rep sitting
and-
here, maybe she can get us funding.
Well,
I'm just
and we're
asking.
starting the process of looking at what needs to be put together to pull, and we were talking about pull all those wells together, because it's all local down here. That's what we're planning, that if it wasn't for the PFAS, that'd be further along.
Right.
Because that came up to a point of losing a source, as opposed to trying to deal with a quality complaint that isn't actually something that comes up as a safety complaint.
Because what we have here, we have 2 wells out back here, we have 2 wells down the other end of this same property, and 2 wells through the woods over on Norman Avenue. We were looking at building an iron removal plant over there, taking all the water, shipping it all over there and treating it through one building. But then all of a sudden, this other additive came in, that we all of a sudden, that we got this pollutant, And that, we're trying to address that, find out where we're at, how many millions of dollars we gotta spend on that when we're trying to build an iron removal plant to get the dirty water out.
So
Well, some people are gonna be thankful that they got dirty water if there's no water at all.
So had it not been for the PFAS, how much, and do you know, rough estimate, how much it would have cost to build a water filtration plant to resolve the issues with the other wells?
We
haven't
don't
got to
know
that
the
point.
cost, because
We don't know
again,
the
they
cost.
have to look at what, the specific water to determine what they want to put in for a process. But that, we're in the, we're kind of, you're asking questions that we'll be finding out the answers to.
We just got the water.
But the dirty water, we should explain how it started too. We rebuilt number one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
You know, from an old vacuum pump system, and then we started using it, put it back online, and Rick said that was one of the best wells way back, but now for some reason we're pulling a lot of iron and manganese out.
the iron and manganese
And-
levels in the ground.
And you have a
just
study
went
going
up.
on right now?
And so when we started using it, it was pulling, you know, I was one of the ones that said, all right, just put it on, let's run it, let's see if it clears up. Maybe from sitting it'll clear up, and
We didn't use it
that's
for
when
a
we
couple
had
years.
horrible water. So now we backed off and running it, but.
We were trying to figure out if maybe it was just iron built up in the pipe from just sitting there, and it hadn't been used for 2 years. While we were getting permission to rebuild it, we rebuilt the whole thing. It took years, and then we brought it back online. Now, we're kicking out dirty water. Is it the well? Or is it the pipe going out of the well system and out into the street? And are we flowing water in a direction that it hasn't been flowed in 2 years? Well, that could be just it. So until you let things,
When did you fix it, supposedly, that didn't fix it?
we fix it
Well,
by
we
shutting it
rebuilt,
off.
we rebuilt that well station, so it's,
In like 2015, 2018,
No,
but,
2019.
Last year, right? 2019.
Came online last year.
but it's still not
No,
where you
that
guys
was
want
mine.
it.
No, what happened is over time, the chemicals in the groundwater get more concentrated being pulled to the well. So when they pull this back on, the water quality just got worse.
And you have a, like, do you have a scientific study that says that that's what it's from, or are you still looking into figuring out what it's actually from?
We've been
And
trying
that's
that.
one idea, one possibility,
Well, no,
or a
that's-
contributing factor.
Well, no, we've tested the water coming out of the well, and it's higher in iron and manganese.
Is that
That's,
used to
we know what the quality coming out of those are.
And that's
But
what
they do
happens
still
in
have to
New
do
England.
is-
It's a
Okay.
known fact. The more water you pull to a well over the years, they do get worse. They don't always get better. Iron and manganese comes in, you know, the more you.
What about well
The
two?
velocity picks up too as a.
You wanna
as
go through the different
groundwater
wells
goes
and tell
down.
us all about them? Cause I think that's what people wanna know, right? Like, how's well two doing?
How's what?
How's your second well? Are the wells numbered 1 to 7? So how's well number 2 for numbers? Does it have a manganese or iron or
Oh, yeah,
PFAS?
Iron and manganese. in both
Groundwater
of them.
in Massachusetts has
Has
iron and
iron and
manganese.
So all
We
7
think-
have iron and manganese
Yeah.
issues?
And we treat.
Different levels.
Sometimes the best production wells have more iron than manganese.
And we know how to get rid of it, right? There must be some kind of standard,
Yeah, green
easy.
sand, and there's a couple other filtration plants that you can, and that depends on what your levels are of iron and what ferrous iron and what their levels of manganese are. That the engineers will do studies and they'll say what type of plant works the best.
So
in
I've
your
heard
situation.
between $1 and $2 million per plant. Is that what you guys are looking at, or is that just
Depends
a
on what you're
rumor?
building for a
It's a-
plant.
it's a
I mean,
guess.
for each well, $1 to $2 million to clean up, to get each well corrected from its issue. So how much, is that how you see it?
If you built something down here, we'd put more than one well into that one plant.
They're feeding, that's why they have to.
But I mean,
design
like
it.
the 7 that you have right now, if you wanted to get them all tip-top shape, would each cost between $1 and $2 million,
You
or
don't
was that
feed
just the
wells, You
PFAS?
feed them into the
No,
treatment
we-
plant, which is exactly.
So we have
what
two
they're trying to do.
locations with wells.
So you're not gonna touch the wells, you're just gonna improve your treatment plant, so the wells will come in and you'll be able to take out the PFAS, take out the manganese, take
Yep.
out the iron, and that's gonna cost you $2
We
million.
already have a treatment
Well, I
plant.
think
No, we don't know what it's gonna
We have
cost.
no idea what it would cost yet, because
If you're looking to figure out how much to give the West Bridgewater Water
Right,
Department,
yeah.
$20 million.
Is that the study, is there, well, I would require a study, right? So
No,
would the
there-
state,
There
yeah.
is work being done that will come up with those numbers,
Right,
we
but they
don't-
have to know what they're
we
gonna
don't know.
treat.
But we-
How much iron, how
we
much
just- we
manganese.
just came
what
up with the
flow rate is
engineering
for the
money.
plant.
just to figure out how big the plant has to be and what the plant's gonna look like. Is it gonna be green sand, or is it gonna be a filtration plant? What, and we got, say we're pumping 500 gallons a minute here, we got 350 gallons a minute down here, we got 500 gallons a minute at the other one. So now we've got 1,300 gallons a minute, 13,500 gallons a minute going over, it'd be 1,500 gallons a minute going over to Norman Avenue to the treatment plant. That plant has to be really big to treat that many gallons per minute. So
How many cubic gallons does the town use a day?
Well, right now, probably 700.
So
So
during this
700
heat wave, we're running.
700,000 gallons.
700,000 cubic gallons.
Gallons.
No, it's gallons.
But then,
Brockton always talks in cubic gallons, so I
That's
just
cubic
didn't
feet.
know.
They
Cubic
talk-
feet.
No, cubic gallons.
There is
With
not a
Bill's-
cubic gallon.
but when we
Gallons
go
is
up,
always bigger.
in the summertime,
Yeah, there is.
when his usage goes
That's
up,
what
you
the
go
water
up to a
commission
million
talks
and a
Convert
half.
cubic feet into gallons.
Yeah,
Seven and a half
cubic,
gallons per cubic
Okay.
foot, so. a
so
lot
you
of
guys
water
use
is measured in cubic feet.
700,000 gallons a
You
day.
can't build a
Up to
plant,
over a million when it's really.
you can't
Over a
build a
million
plant for your
gallons.
average day. You can't build a plant for an average day, you have to build a plant for your maximum day.
Right,
So.
and
he-
expansion
He's
growth.
looking at 1.5 million gallons probably in the middle of the summer in a dry period.
So we have two locations in town with wells, Manley Street and here. We already have a treatment plant up at Manley Street that needs to be retrofitted. It looks like we may need another plant here to treat iron and manganese and maybe PFAS if you're gonna build it.
And we haven't failed to that number yet, but we might as well have the engineering done so that the plant's big enough so we can do it.
How long do you think what's the timeline for the engineer from start to finish? Any idea, roughly?
We don't have that from them yet.
When I talked to DEP, like plants that already existed, it was like 9 months to just start doing something.
The problem is, every town, not every town, but a lot of towns have this problem all at
Yeah.
once. And there's only so many engineering companies out
So
there.
there's no local towns that are ahead of the curve as far as they've experienced,
Well,
either they've experienced or started the process, there's no one to talk to
Well, again,
say.
the start of the
We're the
process
first ones
is literally just talking to engineers and getting the engineers working.
We started
That's
testing
the start.
earlier than we
Nobody's
had.
We
through
started
the process.
testing before anybody else.
Well, just because Wayland's failed, so they must be, I would assume they're
Yeah,
in the
their number was
engineering.
way up.
Are they in the engineering
You wouldn't even see these
process?
numbers if we didn't volunteer to do it early.
The process Wayland's gonna be going through isn't comparable to the process with, it's to try to extrapolate from them. But you have to deal with the companies as they go individually for the size of what you have. The treatment processes are different depending on the level of the contamination. Wayland is way off the charts high, as opposed to we're pushing in at a relatively low with it's a completely different look at the process. So these things are all individual. Any dates, any money you put on these things at this point are just a guess. So what we gotta do is once we get the engineers back in with what their plan is to get the testing done, they can give us an idea of how long a design would take. It goes time at a time. It's not I know it'd be great to be able to give an answer sitting here tonight, but there's no way we can give with any kind of confidence the answers of how long something's gonna take.
Is
how
there a
much
deadline
something's
on the
gonna
report?
cost. We're just getting the process of getting them under contract to do this work.
Do
We
you-
just got the money
Right.
approved to be able to hire them.
So do you know
to
what the
do it.
timeline is? Have you already
We
hired
don't-
somebody?
I just said, we don't have them under contract. We're working on this now.
We haven't signed a
Getting
contract.
them
Have you
here.
sent out like an RFP for your work and you've had somebody respond to it, or how'd you handle,
We have an engineering firm that we just talked to, that we have this problem, and we want him to look at signing a contract with us, look at the problem and see how much he thinks it's gonna cost us to do the engineering.
how much
They
money
haven't got
did you
back
get
to
for
us.
that? 135,000, or did I get that wrong? How much money did you get for to find the contract for the engineering study, just to get the prospectus
How
on it?
much money we
So
get
it
on
was
town meeting?
50,000
50,000,
For each.
okay.
for each.
For each well?
No, for each, one for Manley Street for engineering.
For the cleaning
And
of
one
it,
for the
yeah.
treatment plant for here. They're both, basically both for treatment plants.
I will say that In January, the state of Massachusetts passed a bill to ban toxic flame retardants. The 11 highly toxic flame retardant chemicals in children's products, household furniture, mattresses, bedding, curtains, blinds, and carpeting. And that law goes into effect in Massachusetts in December of this year. So, you know, to your point, Massachusetts that bill has been filed 8 times and many times have failed, but this did pass in January. So the state is hearing what's happening, and I co-sponsored this bill every single time because the toxic flame retardants are a real danger, and they create the PFAS is one source. It's not every source. And I have been hearing a lot of talk recently about the spraying of aerosol to kill the mosquito could have some another source. So there are sources a lot of places.
Source of PFAS?
Yeah, I've just been hearing a lot of
And
articles.
aerosol mosquitoes?
So yeah, so like what the state's been doing.
It's the anvil that they were spraying. They determined it came from the packaging the anvil was shipped in.
So
Supposedly
there's
that's
a lot.
been fixed. But
Yeah, right. So
Supposedly.
have you guys considered potentially like creating like a subgroup of citizens that are interested in this that will work with the members here to really to dive into the sources of PFAS? And because I've spoken with several residents that are very interested, and they seem really positive and on board to help, you know, this big project in town. I don't know if you've discussed it. Maybe you could, because I could put you in contact with like 6 people already that are just, you know, they're not out to kill anybody. They're just out to try to make it a better process. Would you guys be open to that, you think? Want to discuss it? I don't know how we go about that.
Well, we haven't discussed anything like that, and we're not, to be honest, we're not really thinking about what the source is as much as we're under the gun to figure out what to do about it.
Fix it.
Well, I
I mean,
understand
but
that, but I think that there's going to be a trend of water commissions and select boards that take votes in the coming year to ask the state not to spray.
Why?
I just want that to. There are scientists. Not this isn't just from Michelle, the state representative for West Bridgewater. There are scientists at the DEP that are looking into that, and at the EPA. So I just think that I just wanted to posit that so you guys know that that is a topic for maybe
To
you
not
guys
spray for mosquitoes?
or to find a different type of chemical to spray because
We have no control over that.
Well, you
If
do.
we have a subcommittee and they come back to us with this, it isn't gonna make any difference to us, we can say, well, we don't wanna, we don't wanna use that in that, bedding or that spray or that mosquito spray.
We
Nobody's
may-
gonna listen
so-
to us.
so we may- the
It's
reason
gotta go
that-
through the state.
the reason that we passed that law to make flame retardants illegal in babies' clothes and furniture and all that stuff that we did at the beginning of this year, and I was proud to vote for, is because of citizens and groups like the Board of Health and the water commissions from across towns and across the state that lobbied. And I'm just letting you know that I think that there will be a movement of water boards that have PFAS in their water that take these types of votes to tell the state, hey, you're making choices about what chemicals to spray on us, and they are affecting our water, and then you're telling us to pay to get it fixed. And I think that advocacy might just help move the needle more. And I know that the American Recovery Plan that President Biden signed in, we're going to be getting $5.2 billion of that. And I had a meeting with Senator Warren's staff where they really said towns should be getting together their water and sewer projects because of the $5.2 billion. The least red tape is around water and sewer infrastructure. So this is really perfect timing, and I will do all I can to try to work with you
Well, that
in
sounds
this
good.
town and secure the funding, but
So what do we need to do to? We
Get
need to
the plans
we need to
ready,
get
right?
a
Right.
shovel-ready project?
But I would like to meet with each of you. I'll leave you my card, and maybe I would like to have some like citizen meetings so we can all get on board and advocate to make sure that the West Bridgewater projects are the projects that are funded. So when we do submit an application at the state level, that it won't just be me and Senator Timmelty. It will be the water board, the select board, the citizens are there already, and maybe we can figure out a way to help with the costs. That's what I'm hoping, and I would like to be. That's why I came tonight.
Well, I think I think that's a great idea. I think that we're already engineering for these plants to be built, and we're trying to figure out how and where and how much money we need
And
and all that.
cost effectively.
We're already doing it.
See, we're-
And if you can get a group together with the selectmen and put pressure on the state to help us, I mean, we
So I've
don't
spoken
need
with-
any more pressure we're already doing it. We're already doing everything that we could do, and we're already got the money to do the engineering, and we're gonna engineer these things.
Do you
and
think
we're
we
gonna-
could coordinate to have Clean Water Action and Alliance for Healthy Tomorrows come here and talk with you guys at one of your meetings? That because they have PFAS water people, Conservation Law Foundation, I've spoken with them, they'd be willing to come.
If they can
and-
help us get the money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
so
just to
we
know
need
more
people to
about
help us
it.
come get the money,
These
we
are
don't need
open
any.
meetings. I mean, these are public meetings, anybody can come. If
I
they
mean,
wanna
just
come
but
and
like-
talk, that's fine, but as far as the money, my question I have for you, that recovery program act, is that only construction money? Can that money be used for planning and design? Because what we've got is just enough design money right now to get started. We're gonna need tens of thousands more to finish, to get the designs to the point of being able to bid and go to construction.
So I think that's so right now, the American Recovery Plan, there's a little bit of tug of war going between the governor and the legislature. We've created a joint committee on federal stimulus dollars so that the legislature could have more say in how this money is distributed. But from Senator Warren's office, they said the least red tape is around water and sewer infrastructure, and that there's going to be either through the governor's office or through the legislature or through a combination of this body and the legislature, a form that you have to fill out. It has to be returned by like 2022 and the project has to be done, or 2023 and the project has to be done by 2024. The money has to be given to you guys. So there are timelines that I think that, that actually help West Bridgewater if we can get it together. But it's gonna be a big effort because it's a small town and a lot of towns have this issue.
Well, that's the problem with us. We're only 7,000
Right.
people, and we need to build these treatment plants. We're not like Bridgewater or East Bridgewater with 24,000 people or
We can spread that debt
17,000
over
people.
a
We've
lot
got
of
to
people.
spread it. We're a very small town, and if we don't get some help from the state, our water rates are gonna be the highest in the
Right.
state. So,
Right.
And that's
We-
what people, because we're so small, we're forgotten about.
well, it isn't even that, but it's just that for us to do something, we only have 7,000 people spread it out over.
There's, I mean, the tax base, that people, if they have to raise the water rates to support all of this, it will force people to sell their homes.
Have you discussed any of this? Because I think there are residents that are gonna be, apoplectic when the letter comes out that the PFAS, that the state requires the letter to go to people's homes that says the water is over that 20%. Like, so have you, can I ask a couple questions so I can, like, who are you talking with at the DEP? Who's your contact?
That'll be Bill Schwartz.
Because I'm gonna call him and maybe we can all get together on it, because the folks I'm talking about, and I've already spoke to Clean Water Action and I've already spoken to Conservation Law Foundation and Alliance for Healthy Tomorrows, and they will be more than happy to join the citizens group, because it's gonna be a lot of stress when those 7,000 people think the PFAS level is over the state recommend. Like, you guys are gonna get a lot of stress about it, and it's not your fault, but,
No, it's
people
not our
care.
fault. The people who are complaining put it in there. And their government put it in there, and we got the
Because we
problem
want
taking
people
it
to-
out, and we don't have the money to take it out. And we
Right.
have to ask the people, we have to go back to town meeting and ask the people for the money to try to take it out. Then we have to go back to DEP to ask for approval to spend the money.
And then they're not gonna be
the
happy when they see the water bill after we take it out, after we build a,
But in
a
good
treatment plant
conscience,
and everything.
in good conscience, when do you tell your fellow citizens here in West Bridgewater, even if you don't personally agree with the science or the policy behind it, when do you tell them that, maybe they should be buying bottled water
When the
because the
state says
PFAS level is high? And,
We tell them when we hit the point that the DEP's regulations tell us You
DEP
give a
was
public,
notified.
you do, first you do a public
Confidence
education.
report.
If you hit a different area, you do a different, more tier
we're not
2
at
public notification.
We're not, that's just my.
We're not at that stage.
No, we're not at that level.
Yeah, and I have to, I have another meeting to get to, but if you need help, like you said, it seemed like you had trouble with the engineer you're working with. Like I told you, my cousin owned his own company, he cleaned up the water in Weymouth, and he's the reason I came here tonight, because I told him what my neighbor told me about this. And I said, can you help me out, give me some ideas, and this is what he told me to ask you guys.
What company is he with, you know?
I don't know who he's with now, but here's the funny thing, I was in a restaurant in Town Cape, met a lady, we were both waiting for a ferry, and she was going to work on, the water on the vineyard. And I said, oh, my cousin's in
There are
water
other
treatment.
issues down there.
And I told her his name, and she's like, I know who he is, everyone knows who he is. You're Tom Snell.
Yeah.
I don't remember me, I'm Sonia's mom.
What?
Sonia
Oh,
Edie's mom.
oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
I can get you his contact information, I was texting him now, he might still be working, but if you need somebody else to do it, I know he knows what he's doing. I asked him to translate this for me, but I didn't get the translation.
Can you get us his
I
information?
will.
Or have him get in touch just so we know who he
And I have
is?
his personal number, but I can get his work number from him.
If you could, just so we could talk to
Yeah,
him.
I'll reach
anyway.
out to you. I mean, just have somebody else to talk to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And, but hey, thank you all for your time, and I appreciate y'all being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think Michelle had a valid point in what she was explaining, and I don't know if it's feasible, but if one member of the water commissioners, one member of the selectmen, members of other departments, and Wayne created like a committee. it
Could
would not
citizens be
only-
on it too? Maybe like put a
Yeah.
few citizen seats?
Yeah, but it would, to create a committee, not only for this purpose of trying to send the information to the state level where you are, but also communication within the town about what's going on.
Well, I mean, that's our job to
I
do.
mean, the communication with the town will be done in accordance with what the requirements
We
are.
need a committee to go to
for
state.
things
Maybe
Get
we
us
being
some
could
money.
get out of the state some money to help you build that commission so everything doesn't fall on
We need
Kerry
some money
and
for
Wayne.
engineering.
But you
and
could
for-
get some
Okay.
assistance to
construction.
help you
That's-
through
that's
that.
So
the
then
committee
it's
we need
on you.
to lobby the state to get us some
You
money.
and you to go to her then.
Right, no, so we gotta do, I think
The three
that,
of you. It's
because
on
you do need more administrative help. I mean, just you guys can't solve the world's problems of our PFAS, so, and you can't really put it on the two staffers. I mean, they're already carrying a lot, so, but it would be nice to get you guys some help that maybe we can find some state dollars for, because this seems urgent to me. I'm gonna talk to Brockton about what their capacity is to help in an
What's their
emergency.
PFAS levels?
That's something I have to look into, but I have not heard any. We have some issues with the water in Brockton too, but I don't think it's at this level. But I will get back to you. I'll give
I
you my
bet you they
card.
haven't tested for it yet.
Oh, I'm sure they
Yeah.
have.
They have?
Yeah, it was in the paper.
16?
Yeah, they
Oh,
have
okay.
16, which isn't
They've already
really where we
tested.
want to be. We want to be lower too, right?
But one of
Yeah.
the
I had a lot of towns would just wait until they got the mandate saying they had to test. They weren't gonna get out there and get in trouble early.
I know they had to start testing because the number of the population size, so they
Right.
had to start testing.
But
Yeah,
another one of the
sooner than
risks you have is that if you do go, I don't know what the number is, Wayne, for Wayland to have to go to bottled water.
There was way high.
What's
It's
way
once you-
high, do we know?
I wanna say it was like 100 and something.
They were
Oh,
40,
really?
I
Yeah,
thought.
If we were anywhere near there, DEP would be all over us.
Okay.
The
Right.
DEP would shut us down. If there's a contaminant in the water that's gonna put anybody in danger,
Yeah.
we're done.
And-
So-
and
With,
since
with, the
bottled-
water's off.
Since bottled water was just brought up, in the public education stuff DEP puts out, they do point out bottled water, unless they specifically are approved by DEP, doesn't even test for PFAS. So you don't buy bottled water assuming that you're getting lower or zero amounts of PFAS.
I've been-
And it's in plastic.
I asked DEP,
There's only
Yeah.
a few that are actually being tested.
I asked DEP why they have a lower standard to bottled water than they do public water. And they said, it's because if you buy bottled water, you're only gonna buy bottled water for maybe a year or 2 years from one supplier. You could be born in a town and be exposed to that water every day of your life for 100 years. And it depends on how many people that are gonna die from contaminants in your water supply.
Get cancer.
After
Yeah.
100 years, of exposure. And they said, you gotta remember, a person who lives in a town breathes the vapor when they take a shower. They cook their food with it. They do everything. They drink the water. They have complete exposure. You don't take a bath, you don't take a shower with bottled water, you only drink it. So your exposure is a fraction of what your public water is. So they say, we look at it over a 100-year lifetime, 100 years, and how many people are gonna die out of 1 million? And they said, I don't know how many number, there's a number that they put to it, like you can kill 3 people or something out of 1 million or something like that. And then if that contaminant is higher than that, then you gotta do something about it.
When was our last test taken?
What's that?
When was our last test taken?
Of what?
PFAS.
When did you take the
May.
last?
May?
What are we doing, every quarter?
No, every monthly for
Yeah.
Manley
Oh, a
Street.
monthly? Oh,
Yeah, monthly.
Manly's on monthly, but we're quarterly down here?
Yeah, which doesn't begin until October.
These have only been like between 7 and 8 for the most part, I think.
Yeah, they're low, they're under
Under
10,
10.
10 and under.
So is over 20, if you hit nanograms or whatever that calculation
Yeah.
is, if you hit over 20, what's the action you need to take? Is it send a letter to everyone?
So
and let
the-
them know
so
high-risk groups?
Not being on the thing and just talking off the top of my head, so not held to the carpet for this. But the minute you test over 20, and it has to, and it's a rounded number, so if I test 20.4, it rounds down to 20, I'm not over 20. The minute you get 20.5, it rounds up to 21, you're over 20. A letter goes out as an advisory, but there's no violation at that point, because it takes 3 running or 3 averaged samples to take you into violation. Once you reach violation, remember, once again, I'm not held on the carpet for this. Once you reach violation, then you determine what your action plan would be. If you can afford to take the source off, you take the source off, and then you refit it to treat for it. If you can't afford to take the source off, then you have to provide water to the people, like he said, the people with issues, health
High risk.
issues. It's not for everybody, but it's for health issues. Some of the ways bottled water, others, a lot of the towns are using vending machine water, vending units where the people come up and they can fill up their jugs.
Okay, so
Bottled water is very expensive.
Abington and Rockland, I think.
Abington,
have
Rockland,
both,
Easton
too?
have vending machines.
Okay.
They
So-
did what?
Oh, East
They have-
does?
Yes.
So I'm
It is-
looking at the Wayland levels, and one of their wells is that has an average over 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 readings of 24.7.
So-
The other well is 16.28, and then there are NAs at 2 other wells, but the numbers of the reported readings over the 5, 2 are X'd out, but they're at like 3.62. So just for a reference, 16 and 24 are the
24 is
highs
over
out
and
of
a
4.
running average,
Right.
So
So,
they
is
reached
it
the
100?
violation.
But you guys are close.
24.
So you look at you'll understand once you look at it. So they take a reading of 1, 2, 3 every 5 months, and then give you a weighted average.
Well, we're
So
just
they're
trying to be
close to West
we're proactive here, trying
Right.
to
We're trying to see
anticipate
before we go over.
when we do fail, what are we doing about it? So we're already there, so we already know what we're doing.
We're working on knowing what we're doing. That's
Yeah,
the
we're working
problem.
on it.
It takes time to
Remember,
find out.
every town is
We
gonna
know
be
it takes a
failing.
long time
All-
to do
There's
these
only
things.
so
Just
many
don't do it
engineering
overnight.
firms, and they're all gonna be busy.
You know
That
what I mean?
doesn't
So it's
sound like
average.
much.
I know.
I heard
Yeah.
a lot higher
Yeah.
numbers
Next month,
than
that
that
was
too.
both books over on
Wayland.
quarterly.
Yeah, I
That, those
think we have
numbers
to
don't
do
sound
that.
I know.
Yeah, maybe it's wrong. I'm just looking
No, I
at
said,
quick
I remember hearing about Wayland and they
It's
were
an
real.
average.
Right, they went through as much bottled water as they did, that they
He
were
does
way up.
samples every month.
But this is
then they have
2021,
the
so
3
maybe they
samples for
did
the
have
month
done
that
a
they
lot of
average.
work.
Treating, some of them don't
Yeah.
have treating, like they
Yeah.
started this because of their size,
I'm
that
not
they
sure how
came under
average
the
I'm
when
just saying,
DEP does it, they have rules and they select certain towns and they test through them. So some towns failed out way back when, like
If it
2015.
doesn't, when you
Okay.
average.
So that they're
3
ahead of
months
the curve.
continuously,
Way
where
ahead.
So
that
we can see
average
what they
takes you.
did for a path.
Right.
20.6 this month.
Yeah, the path seems to be
We're
the.
That's a rolling
20.6
We have to
this
go
month,
2 more
that'd be
months.
the first one that would be a
Alright.
21, the previous would be a 20. And you
So it's a
still-
quarterly average, so you'd have to be over for 3 months. Or one could be over, one wouldn't.
So it's rolling?
It's an average 3
Meaning
month.
the fourth-
I think
Quarterly average.
It's a
I'm
quarterly.
looking at
Quarterly
5
average.
months here
So
for,
every 3 months,
Yeah,
you see
5
what your
months,
average
sure.
was for your last
I
year.
don't know.
Yeah, how they should be testing every month.
So they're testing every month, this is what I have here. So,
This is Wayland?
yeah, that's, I mean, that was a quick search, I don't know.
Make more
It's
sense
a
if it was
world
a
website.
rolling quarterly.
It could be,
Yeah.
like I said, don't
Yeah,
quote me
that's
until
what
we
it
get
was.
to that
And then
point.
they have 5.
You know, I'm
I wonder if
trying
they're
not
gonna
to
keep doing that for the
Burn a
year. I have no
pile.
idea.
We wanna fix the problem, not,
Right.
They're doing every month.
we know there's an
Yeah.
issue,
They're every month.
so
Yeah.
they're long ahead of the curve on it.
Yeah, so
But it
it's
takes,
every
it's
month.
not instant, you can't snap your fingers and go buy a new car.
Yep.
It's not that way, it's, the plant has to be refitted, we did the thing, we went to town meeting, we've got seed money for engineering, and that's only seed money, that's not gonna like, it's not
That's not
gonna
gonna
carry all
build
the
it,
way
that's not
through.
gonna engineer the building.
So again, if our state representative, when they're working up all the details on how that money is gonna be distributed from the recovery plan, can kind of push to make sure it's not just construction, but it can be, that money
Right.
can be used for.
well, I can
this
get you that
initial
answer, I
portion.
think it is, but I can get you that
Because a
answer.
lot of times that's, those.
Yeah, a lot of
programs,
times they give
want
you money to
shovel-ready
engineer,
Projects, that's what we did with the Walnut Street
Get
tank.
it going
Money
on
was
the building.
available. so
Right,
we
get going
were
on
ready
it,
to go.
but not to really design the plant. They just give you money to study it.
Would you be able to work simultaneously on both fixing the Manley Street station and looking into what we would need to do to treat the other 6 wells?
Yeah,
Right.
if
We
we
might as well
had
do
the
it all.
money to do it.
Okay, so if we, that's what
Right.
I'm thinking, so if, how much money do you think you would need to work on that?
We-
Roughly.
we'll know
Engineering is
when, we'll.
150.
The $50,000 is gonna tell us that.
Us,
Right.
what
We
we
just-
need.
That's just gonna tell us. that.
Engineering, that's what I'm asking, just.
Yeah, we got an engineer looking at it saying,
150, 200?
There's no way to tell.
The-
If they all get, so when,
Sean, I didn't get the
when
whole
construction
number.
goes nuts and there's a demand,
Yeah.
then prices go up.
I'm just saying, you knew you needed 150 for Mammoth Street, right?
Okay.
I don't know what
No,
we need.
we
Okay.
got 50 grand for each one
Right.
to start the process of a pilot testing that work. When that work gets done, then you have to design the plant, do the bidding documents and everything else. That, I don't know, 100, 200? We're not gonna know, they'll tell us based on the kind of plant it is,
Right.
what it's gonna cost to design
And
it.
the plant will give, they'll give you a timeline, if you were to have the funding, how long you would expect for this to all be finalized?
no.
Well,
And this
you- you- you-
$50,000
We have to wait on the
Come up with a
engineers.
schedule, but you have to get
And the
approval.
engineer sends the plans into DEP, and then they go into DEP, and there's no way you know how, they have to approve those plans.
Right.
We just can't go out to bid with an engineering plan. DEP has to approve that plan and how it's gonna be built. And that takes,
Nothing
I
moves
mean,
fast.
a little pressure on getting
Right.
approvals through DEP, particularly for this, the PFAS stuff.
Right.
It probably wouldn't hurt.
It's a
'Cause they're-
team
'cause
effort,
they're
right.
overwhelmed too,
Right,
you know, but they.
and one of our problems has been everybody was working from home, so our engineers were working for us to send the stuff in, but everybody's working from home and stuff.
so you don't have a firm locked in yet, and we're not sure when the engineering estimates are gonna be done, because we don't even have the firm locked in yet.
We have an engineer,
We-
well, we haven't even let it lock them in, we think we know.
We just had our
Do you think you
engineer
should put
pass
out an
away.
RFP?
We
That
have.
was another problem.
Yeah,
He's a young guy.
so then you can
and he
get
died.
6 different
And
estimates
he
come
was
in, and
with
you
us
can
for years.
I don't
decide.
think we'd get them, I mean, it's hard enough to find an engineer to do the water works engineering. as
There's only
it
a
is.
few guys, there's only a few.
Don't you
big
have to
companies
do an
that
RFP
water.
for $50,000 expenditure? Isn't that like a
Not for
requirement?
professional services, you don't.
Okay.
You can run through, and this is part of the reason why you see engineers in towns for a long time. They have local knowledge. If the processes are going well, it tends to keep rolling over. These people.
It helps to use somebody
We
that
have-
knows the water system.
So in
Right now,
Brockton,
no
we
water
have engineers that we RFP their services out for the year, like according to state law bidding contracts and all that. I'm just saying that if your engineer, God rest his soul, passed away, maybe it might be a good idea to put together a prospectus of what you're looking for and do an RFP, or think about it.
Because and it's the engineer that passed away was a
Same
member
company.
of a company. It wasn't like this was one person
Right,
we're going to.
right.
We have a long relationship with that company. We figured it's definitely from a time standpoint.
Okay, great.
More effective to stay with them, assuming they get back to us. If they don't, we'll be looking for another engineer.
And that engineering,
But
just did a
that's-
whole analysis of our full water system.
Where can we read that whole analysis of the water
Well, there's a whole
system?
report, I mean.
Is it electronic? Could I get a copy of that?
No, it's not electronic.
If I called the engineer, could he create me a report? I think that would be something that the residents would be interested in.
It was an analysis so that we could,
It's not.
it was a complete analysis, so when a new project goes
So you
in-
have it?
It's a build-out study. We had a build-out study done to
Yeah.
make sure that our system would.
It's like 400 pages.
It's a thick.
And who did it? What engineering
So
firm?
this was just a draft
Tata and Howard.
Tata?
of my
TATA.
asset management plan. That's just a draft.
Another thing ongoing that the state requires us to do.
Right, I think that's great. I think we need to, drinking water is very important, and so I think that having
No,
a
Why
good.
don't we pay for all this stuff? You guys think
Well,
all this stuff is a great
who pays
idea.
for if
We
some-
spend
a loved one
hundreds of
gets
thousands of
cancer?
dollars and we got 7,000 people, we send out the bills
This
and
is
they all
important.
complain that the bills are too
The
high.
likelihood that you're gonna get cancer from even the levels of drinking water we're talking about with the PFAS here, compared to everything else most people ingest,
I understand that,
it's
but
pretty close to nil.
I'm just saying that I
Don't blame us,
appreciate
we're not
the
putting
report.
this,
Not
we're
that we
not
don't
putting
take it
this
serious.
junk in there.
Right.
That's,
You
Right.
guys are.
Did you wash your clothes today? Then I think you did too.
I know.
Yeah, well,
And it-
everybody
but it
does
shouldn't
that.
be.
so the
I
state,
use.
So-
good-
I don't want it in my clothes,
Yeah.
but somebody's letting somebody put it in the
But we're
clothes.
banning it in Massachusetts in
Did they
baby
ban it in dryer
clothes.
shirts and fabric softener?
I don't know, I'll look into that one.
It is in all the
It's-
stuff.
it's-
Just
every-
about
I think that's one of the
everything,
biggest
what
ones,
they
is the
tell me.
dryer
So
sheets.
I know I'm driving Art crazy with this
Yes,
question.
you
I
are.
can tell by his face, but I'm
Which
going
question?
to
You're not gonna ask about the
him.
money again,
No,
are you?
well, I am, but
We
here's
don't know
why.
that.
Only for engineering. I'm not talking about anything
We
else
still
for
don't know.
engineering.
We still don't know. I
You have
did
some
this
timeline?
for municipal water and wastewater consultant for over 20 years. You do the first project to figure out what you need to do. Then you can price what it's gonna cost to design the plant that you need to do what this part says. We're in that first part of the process
For the
now getting
PFAS.
started. Well, for anything.
For everything?
Other than
Well,
that, you're just throwing numbers. out.
Doesn't the build-up give you information though, to tell you how
It
much
just
it
tells
may?
us how big our town is gonna get, whether our system would provide.
It's a
for the
complete
town.
analysis
So
of
the
us.
engineer will be looking at the complete analysis to come up with the cost of what we have to do to
Well,
get
No,
our
it's
water?
gonna be looking at what we
You're
want to
mixing
remove
it
from
up.
the
They don't
water.
give you stuff like that.
There's 18 different issues we're dealing with here. That
Right.
build-out analysis looked at do we have enough wells? Do we have enough water from the wells? Things like that.
They created a
That
flushing
didn't look at
program for us.
PFAS and
Whatever
iron
made sense with the layout of
They were
our
trying to
pipes.
figure out
I'm
if
gonna
they
read
built, if they allowed them to build all these subdivisions that they wanna build, do we have enough water? You know, stuff
we
like
need
that. Is there
housing.
enough
So when a
land
big
set aside?
40B project
Right.
goes in, we could see how that was gonna affect our water system and maybe get something.
I
out
would
of that
really like
project
to
to
see
improve our
that,
water
because
system.
there's a lot of water issues between West Bridgewater and Brockton and across my district that I represent, that, they really rely on each other about the development and the water, and then my citizens that I represent and their concerns for their health and safety. I want us to be able to solve this problem for them.
So
So
we
that-
really need some money, because we've
Yeah.
let quite a few 40B projects in, and that is a strain on our water system also.
The $150,000 that we paid for the engineering.
No, 50 and
50
50.
and 50.
Okay, 150 altogether.
No, it's
100.
50 and 50.
100,000.
And 100,000.
Oh, it's 100,000.
But they're
It's
for two separate things.
$50,000 to look at Manley Street for PFAS, and
Right.
$50,000 to look down here for an iron and manganese,
Okay.
and possibly, and if we built an iron and manganese plant, we know we're
But
gonna have to at
basically-
least have an add-on
Okay,
available.
so you
for
already
PFAS.
have that money for the analysis
Yes,
here.
but-
That's the point I
But
was, I thought you needed
that's
more.
just the very beginning. To
Okay.
get to the
But
design,
engineering
it's
will be
gonna be
hundreds
a
of
lot
thousands.
more.
And you
And
still
that's
don't
the
even have
iron
it.
removal plant up
Right.
on Bailey
You still don't
Street
have the
when we built
engineer
that
that you're
40
gonna-
years ago.
We don't know what we have.
There's an extra tank in there.
I'm gonna
for
bring in
a
Conservation
room for
Law
another
Foundation
tank
and see if they have anybody to
for
suggest
another
to.
treatment. We
We could
figured
use it.
someday they're gonna come up with a
It's not
chemical, we're gonna
loans, we
treat
don't need
for.
loans.
There
We
is
need
growth.
grants or free
So
money. It's
we-
not,
Right.
because we have loans and we're
Right.
struggling under the weight of them.
Yeah.
Right.
See, this is
We're
the
still
issue.
paying, I think we're still paying for the
We're
iron removal
between a
plant,
rock
right?
and
We're still paying for the iron removal plant
Which
for
was built how
another
many
year
years
and a
ago?
half. Yeah.
What's it been?
So-
Yeah, see, we're just finishing up, we got, this year, I think is our last year, or maybe next year, and we were kinda hoping to get
That's
this one
just-
paid for,
we
and then
won't pay
start
off the
another
land.
one.
The The land will
We
still
can't
be, the
take on
land
two
costs more
payments
than
at the
the
same time.
See, we can't
Right.
wait and see if Manley Street gets to that point. We really
Right.
we
But
need to
here
be
we are, we're gonna
prepared.
retrofit that
Well,
plant.
we're not
Get it
waiting,
available.
that's why we asked for the money,
Yeah.
so that we're not waiting.
Right, but we need it done on our next
Well, you-
day
well, you
basis.
can't-
If possible. I mean, if
Right.
more money is thrown at us to get it done sooner, and it's grant money, then I say take it.
Right, because if
We're
you
not
bump
gonna,
over
we're not
20,
gonna say no to grant money.
We're not gonna say no
We
to the
can't say
grant
no
money,
to
but
grant.
what usually happens is, like when I got the Obama money to build the water tank up there, what had to happen was, a guy came in here and he said, I heard that you got a shovel-ready project. And I said, yeah. And he said, where's the drawings of the tank you wanna build? And I took them out. He said, where's your building permit? And I had it. I already asked for a building permit. He goes, it's gonna exceed the height elevations that the town allows for structures. You got a special permit? I got it, I had the special permit. He said, you're shovel ready. Wow. He goes, I'll get back to you in a couple of weeks. And we got $1 million of free money, $1 million of a loan, low interest loan, and it was something else. It was a $3 million project, but we only ended up paying $1 million. And it was a low interest, but we knew that the thing was, we had to be, they kept telling us, you gotta be shovel ready. And I asked them what shovel ready meant, and they said, if you get to that point, you gotta have your building permits and all your permits, or else they're just gonna say, you're not ready. And they're gonna hand it back to you, and I had everything, and they said, ooh, you
But
are
my-
shovel ready.
and then what
Mark made
happened?
it very unmarked.
So it'd be nice if we could get, we know what we need, and we can get a blueprint done over here for what we need, and then if money comes available, we're shovel ready to go.
Are you asking for money from the selectmen in case you go over and you have to supply drinking water?
We don't,
Do you have an contingency
We're a
plan?
separate entity.
we have our own, we have to
So
raise our
you
own.
have the funds to pay for emergency water? Or would you
So-
go to DEP for that?
So let me,
We don't
let me,
have money for that.
let me
We don't.
correct you
We
on
raise
something.
we raise $2 million a year, and that's all we have, we spend every nickel of it.
Although you are a separate entity, the town can give you money.
Oh, yeah, they
Like
can,
the
they can,
stabilization
but
fund.
We haven't talked about it yet, because we're not there, but.
Right, but what that's her question is, if this
'Cause if it
happens, do you have
happens-
the money in your budget to provide
Well,
bottled water?
you know our budget, you see our
You
budget when
don't
it
have
goes.
the money.
When it, no,
Right,
you-
I
Answer
when-
the
know,
question,
right.
because you
Exactly,
don't have the
exactly.
money.
And if we put in a budget that had the money,
Right,
we would have to raise our rates to cover the event that was done because of the way the accounting
So
does. If we
You
don't
could make a
even-
resolve or
even the
some kind
Department of
of,
Revenue makes us raise as much money as we budget. If we don't,
so my
we
question, Michelle,
can't-
is if they get to that point, I mean, it's taken this town years to build up the stabilization fund to where it is. And quite frankly, I don't think the taxpayers can carry another burden of trying to build up another 2.5 million. Are there grants available to help us with bottled water?
yeah, I'll have to look into all this emergency stuff, emergency drinking water stuff. You know, there's probably a path. I don't have an answer right now, but I think that someone has to start at least thinking about it. And hopefully you never have to use it. I wasn't sure if you had an emergency plan, Brockton does, and I can get to that.
What towns do you cover, Brockton, West Bridgewater?
And one
What's
precinct in East
Oh,
Bridgewater.
East
So-
Bridgewater.
Just one
Brockton
precinct.
has a contingency
Yeah,
plan? or
Yeah, we
fund?
have, we
I mean, how
have
does East
such a,
Bridgewater
we have
tax-
everything.
Right.
There's a contingency plan, there are
Anybody know?
funds, but we have our own water issues too.
Okay, so, you know,
And I'm gonna look into like, I mean, have you even thought about potentially getting your water from the desal plant? It's expensive, like, could that be an emergency contingency plan? Like, what is the, like, do you have a hookup here? I'm
What's the
gonna start
PFAS
looking
level?
into
There is no
this.
hookup.
It's lower than here,
The
yeah.
PFAS level?
I'll
we
get
don't-
you the
The
PFAS level.
desal?
Yeah, I'm gonna start looking at everything, for you. I love water and
I mean,
sewer
we
issues.
Does
don't
Brockton
have-
own the desal plant now?
Well, we're still paying for it,
Is that aquarium?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Query
we
still owns
do
it?
not have an active hookup. That, when the pipeline went through over to Brockton, they did not make it.
They were
But it
supposed
goes
to.
right by, right?
It was supposed to be,
In the agreement, in
But you
the
could
agreement,
connect it
Beth
if it's right
Ferris,
there.
there was an agreement signed, and they were supposed to drop us off a tie-in to end of our line with a
On
meter
Walnut
pit.
Street, I think, right?
And
Yeah, right down
and
the
she
street.
Right.
never made them do it. Beth Ferrisy never made them do it. And they were supposed to put sidewalks in because we gave up
Whereabouts on Manly?
Turnpike Street. It went
Turnpike,
right up
Turnpike,
Turnpike
yeah.
Street onto
It's
Walnut Street.
It's High Street and Easton is the intersection.
And then right there at the intersection, they were supposed to run about 50 feet of pipe and put a meter pit in, and they never did it. Beth Ferrisy, the administrative
so-
assistant, never made them do it.
So when they talk
I
about that,
insisted that they make them do it for time and time again.
would
She
you want
never made them
information
do
on
it.
that? I'll get you, I'll try to get information on that too.
If I'm not mistaken, they're reverse osmosis.
We always figured that would be,
Zero.
that was gonna be our
Like
emergency
minimal
if we
PFAS.
ever needed.
So, yeah, I don't
water.
think there's a lot of
That
PFAS.
would give us water. If even it was cloudy, dirty water, we'd have water to
It should be clean water. I mean, we pay a lot of money. It's an
yeah, but
expensive
see what
plant.
happens, that
Except
isn't the
that
problem.
water is
When you
different
start
than the
flowing the
water
water
in
in
this
a different direction,
Right.
you're gonna
This
get
is-
dirty water.
Right.
You get a change, and it's probably more different from what we put in out of our plants than what Brockton has going through theirs. You probably
Well, we
have to
dump
get a
all that
mix.
water. It all just gets dumped in a river and goes back down. It's
All
like a
the,
big,
desal
I
water?
can't even believe what they
Yeah,
do. They
they're
pump
supposed
through a
to-
minimal amount every day,
Yeah,
and what they
recycle.
don't use, it just drops, so we're wasting all that electricity to run the desal
To
plant
produce it.
because it costs a lot in electricity to run a desal
But it's
plant
part
at
of
the
the
end of
contract.
the
They have to
bracket.
do it, right?
Yeah, and so, who knows, but, I mean, so that's something I'll look into. I don't know. I don't know what 700,000 gallons a day would do to Brockton's system if that was an emergency, but it doesn't sound like you have an emergency agreement with them. I'm just gonna call the DEP and I think that, you know, the only reason I'm here is that I've gotten calls from like 5 different residents who don't even really know each other, who are all concerned about this issue. And so I just think it's worth it to put a little bit more focus on it. And I didn't realize that the town was having such a difficult time until I got a phone call recently. So I'm sorry that I have not realized that, but I'm here to work to get this problem solved. But it's a real problem.
Oh, we're well aware it's
Money
a
can
real
fix it.
problem. And the
Yeah.
main
Usually,
thing that's
yeah.
gonna be the biggest problem is gonna be paying for the fix.
Right.
Well, education too.
Well,
All right.
depends on, the problem with information is unless it's really well understood by everybody looking, you can get people more worried about something than they need to be at the time.
The problem is a little bit of
When they don't
information.
put
If
context
somebody gets a
in.
little bit of information, it looks bad. If you get all the information,
Right.
oh, okay.
That's
so
what
it's
I
not
mean,
quite
like
as
some
bad.
kind of water education thing that goes on in town.
And again, that's why I think that little subcommittee of people communicating would be passing down the information.
Well, I mean, we're communicating everything we're supposed to at this point
My
to the public. I mean,
consumer
once we go
confidence
over, we
report
have.
covered it. I made sure
There's
it was
people
in
who
there.
make up stories as they start talking about things they don't know anything about. That's
No, it's all,
But that's not the
The
issue.
state putting up wrong numbers too, and I believe
well,
that
the
they
state didn't
fixed
put
them.
up
You know,
wrong
you're gonna have to-
numbers, they just put up all the numbers, Wayne.
Right.
So what happens is, the state says,
Gets
here's one in
misinterpreted.
December, here's one in February,
Right.
you failed on 2. And then you publish something that says we only failed on 1, and that was contaminated.
Right.
That's what doesn't help. So if you're going to communicate, it needs to be accurate, otherwise that's
Well,
what
the
gets people
thing
doubting.
is, that we are communicating the actual numbers that it's based on, whether you pass or fail. DEP, the website is all these raw numbers. It doesn't have the context of whether it's a bad sample or not. It doesn't have the context of how they count whether a number is at 20 or above 20 or below 20. Because again, what he said earlier, 20.4 from the lab counts as 20 in the regulations. It doesn't count as being over. 19.4 would count as 19, 19.5 would count as 20. It's that, and that's how the numbers work with the regulation. They put those raw lab numbers in, they don't have any explanation like that.
I can guarantee you, almost no one in town knew you round down.
No,
Most
you
people
round,
don't.
you round
Depends.
whatever direction.
No, but what,
No, if it's
If it's
20.5,
below
you're
5,
up.
Right,
Yeah.
but if it's 20.4, you round down.
Right.
Okay?
And
So,
it's gonna be a 3-month average.
right, so, I mean, the average person would say if I'm at 20.4, I am over 20, because mathematically that's
Yeah.
correct.
Right.
But you're saying, no, the state
No.
says that's
So
actually
by
20,
regulation.
so you're
we're not
below.
over.
We should probably put something on the website that explains how the testing is done.
Yeah, because when I
Under
learned
defect.
math, 20.4 is over 20. Just a
Right.
mathematical
No, I
equation.
understand.
So,
Yeah, you went to school back when they taught math though, right?
exactly.
That's
She
the problem.
still tries to count on that because it's
Yeah.
not net.
So you
We
see
get off
that-
on the wrong foot from the wrong test results that the state published, I will tell you that.
Yeah,
The
so I
state
think,
had it up on DEP, and it caused us to get off on the wrong foot, and since talking to DEP multiple times, they said they were in the wrong for the December, and it was one other one that got completely thrown out.
December 28th or
That
29th.
was-
So can we get something up on the website that explains how the testing goes?
I can,
Just so when somebody sees a 20
someday I'll get a day off.
point whatever, I mean,
Can we do that?
Can we do that? Can you
Yeah,
and I do
breathing
it?
is good.
Yes,
I'm
you
like,
and I
keep
can
walking
do
around,
it.
I'm like,
Breathing
Yes.
is great.
I mean, but Carrie,
breathe for a minute.
Carrie, what if you and I put it together with some of Wayne's intellect, but try to keep it at our level, Wayne? Because the issue is, if you start going into scientific mode, measuring nanometers and all that other stuff, you lose us. All we want to know is, what's the number? Are we okay?
at what point are we over?
Yeah.
Micrograms.
Yeah, but everything, when you look, it's parts per trillion, it's
Yeah.
parts per billion, it's milligrams per liter, it's
The
all over
other
the place.
thing that you gotta understand too, whenever we take samples, we send the samples to the lab sends the results to the DEP. It's not like our job, they don't trust us to take the numbers and then tell the DEP. They get the numbers themselves, and then a lot of times we get the results afterwards. But DEP wants the numbers directly from the lab,
Do you
we
do
just
in-home
take the samples.
Off
No.
of people's faucets?
So we can't fudge
That's,
it.
that's not.
No,
No,
no, because
even
they don't know that
stainless
Teflon
steel
tape
lab
doesn't have it in
has
it.
QT,
So-
CTQC
So you don't do
or
any
something like that.
in-house
They
testing
test
of water?
the state's
No.
quality control after it leaves the lab.
Right, right.
You know?
Well, there must have been a problem with one of those samples, because it seems to me that they looked back and said that there was they think there was a problem, and they sampled there was 2 samples taken, they tested the other one, and it was lower. So
I
they
know the 28, both of them that came from.
something they did.
mainly- I wanna say it was station and well. I
There was,
think.
there was a raw water and a finished water out of Manly on December 28th that came back the exact
Yeah,
same
that's- yeah.
number.
Yeah,
So they knew there was something contaminated because you should, that,
yeah.
not what you were ever
That was-
seeing, you never should see.
That was one of the first conversations I had with Art too. Hey, look, man, what's going on? You know,
But then, again, if they were clearer, they would have had an explanation, and further down, they had the other results sitting there that showed it lower.
yeah.
That's why I get a little agita about information going out, because if there's no context or explanation,
Yeah.
and like you said, it's, some of the stuff's hard to explain to somebody who, you know, you get into the treatment levels and what all these numbers mean.
Yeah.
If they don't have some kind of background, it's awful hard to understand.
So I overstepped my boundaries when I said, yeah, I'll
You and
help.
Kevin?
Yeah, I did, I know. But as a resident, I'd like to help. If it's okay with the board and it's okay with Wayne, you know, if Kerry and I could put together some sort of easy to understand,
A basic narrative on
basic, very,
How the
for
numbers
the,
are.
I mean, put it this way, a lot of what you explained tonight, what, an hour and a half, I understood after it was synthesized down to my level. I think if we work together with Carrie, we can take what you say that is way over our head and put it into a communication that's meaningful.
Wayland has a website, you should check it out, that does that, with like questions that they answer, what are
Right, do we
PFAS,
have
what
one
does
that should be
No,
nanograms.
that's actually one thing, if you wanna do
Oh,
that,
good.
something we have to actually
Wait, we're
check.
done with this.
Hang on, Rick.
Do you have
Rick,
Rick, I
hang,
can't-
hang on. You're talking about putting that thing together as a communication to go out to the residents. You have to be careful, because DEP has specific things that have to
Yeah,
be
you
said
can't.
in official communications about PFAS. I can almost guarantee what Wayland, you're just looking at, is, except for the fill in the blanks,
Right.
came off of the
They give you
DEP
fill in the
website.
So I can call the
for-
DEP.
For the big,
Or you can, Wayne, right?
notification. You're
Yeah.
talking about putting something out
Good.
that's
I'm happy to
that's
do it.
lesser than that, and if we do, we have to make sure that
Yeah.
putting out something lesser, even though we're not above the MCL, doesn't get us in trouble with DEP.
Right.
Because we'd be putting out a notice that
Yeah.
doesn't meet
So
their
maybe we should
standard.
check with DEP.
You gotta be
Yeah,
careful
Right,
about.
that's a good idea.
We,
Yeah.
you might be able to put something together and we run it by DEP. We can't just put something and send it out until we know just how, because these things are convoluted and there's little things buried places where we might not see it on the first read
And
through.
then if it's not 100% correct,
Right.
And then all of a sudden, we have a problem that we didn't have a problem at all in the first place.
On that annual report that we have to send out every year, the wording of that has to be specific to what DEP wants us to say. We have to just tell them the facts. And you can't try to explain anything. You just tell them the facts, just give them the numbers. Maximum contaminant level, and these are our numbers. And then,
So-
they don't want you to say anymore.
How do you feel about me spending some time with Carrie? Would that be okay with you?
If-
And again,
I'm not-
very cautious, meaning that,
We'd have to get it
Before
approved
anything's
by
done, we'd have
DEP.
to look
Oh,
at it too,
absolutely.
yeah.
We'd have to get it
Absolutely.
approved by DEP to, if we can put it out there to the
oh
public.
yeah, no, it would go to you next, and you decide. You could scrap it right then and there and say, we just don't wanna do it.
Right. I don't have a problem as long as we make sure we don't shoot ourselves in the foot.
Right,
the
no,
wrong-
Then we don't want
I'm glad you brought that up about.
DEP to say that we're
Very
trying
valid
to
point.
cover it up.
Right,
We're just, I think our whole attitude here as a board and Wade, we see that we've got a potential problem coming our way, and we're just trying to get the money and get prepared if it happens.
yeah,
And we're trying to get the engineering done and get everybody online with us so that we can take action. And-
We're actually trying to be ahead of the curve.
yeah, we're just trying to get ahead of the curve, and everybody else is all panicking over it. We haven't failed anything yet, but we're just trying to get ahead of it so we're ready to go.
but I think, again, I don't wanna beat a dead horse, but, stop. But,
Say a word.
but just alone explaining that 20.4 isn't over, that rounds down to a 20, takes away that there was mystery around what Wayne was giving out. 'Cause Wayne saying, nope, we didn't go over 20, it was 20.4. That's math. So again, it's because the state rounds down on anything below 20.5. Just passing out that knowledge, eases people. Because there's going to be a population that is going to be, one, highly critical because they're scared. They're afraid. And I don't
And it's
blame
a
them.
quarterly average.
And it's a quarterly adding that to it too. So I'm not looking at writing, a page. It's just bullet points of things we should all know.
And again, as long as we can do it
Yeah.
in a way that's, we don't run afoul of
DEP.
their public notification piece,
Yeah,
should be fine.
yeah.
Okay, sounds good. I think we gotta move on to finish up our meeting here.
Yeah, I think I wanna move on too. Thanks for your time.
All right.
So you're gonna be here at 8 o'clock?
Thank you for
your
coming in.
time. You're welcome.
Denise, you'll be here at 8 tomorrow?
I'll be here, each tomorrow morning. No, Carrie and I will talk about this and figure out when we can get together. And like I said, just brainstorm, put together some ideas and then give it to you and you decide, is this something we want to send to the DEP or do we just want to squash this? It's up to you.
Yeah,
Not doing it, not squash
Yeah,
the issue.
yeah.
Sounds good.
The thing is, you can't squash the issue, because
Right.
if it keeps going, DEP comes down on you, you have to do it, even if
Right.
we wanted to skirt it.
Yeah,
You know,
I just think if we get some information out there that the average person can understand, it's always helpful. Okay, have a good night, thank you.
Me
Have a
too.
good night.
Station 1, 2, 3, or 4.
That was it.
That was it?
That's what started all this.
Update on the replacement well.
So they're gonna begin the flow test tomorrow.
Great.
So that gives them the sizings of the pumps. And then-
So we don't know what it's producing at this point?
No.
Okay.
All right, any other questions on that?
No, we actually talked about that already.
Okay. Update on the new water source.
I have not heard anything out of them on that one.
How about our water labor hiring?
So we met with, well, I've met with two, but they keep turning it down. But there's a couple of candidates coming up that, one of them looks really good. I mean, everything looks good, but we'll see. But it's just arranging interviews and, you know, we'll find time to get to them. They might not be able to come during the day, so,
I sent Linda times today.
all right. So it's just interviewing and
Asset management rent?
so he's gonna come on Wednesday. Somewhere in this mess, there's some yellowed out things I'm supposed to look at. I would have never printed it. I didn't realize the thing was that big when I printed it. And 2 hours later, when it was still printing, I'm like, what did I do? So we're working on it. And they have requested information from us. I have mine, Kerry's gathering hers.
Okay.
They're on the rate part of it.
Main office generator,
So the new firm diagnosed the problem, they have the part, I'll give them a call tomorrow to see how it's going with it. But it's basically what on a regular engine would have been the distributor, ours was converted to electronic ignition. You know, the generator's X amount of years old now, so now it's trying to figure out what to do, if they can rebuild it, or are they gonna have to find some other way to do it.
okay. So they're working on trying to figure out how to overcome the
That's a
problem.
problem?
Yeah, because it's that old and it's not
How
a
old is
part
it?
that came with the generator.
The year we built this building,
Yeah,
Right.
I mean,
35, 40 years old.
we're still making ignition parts for engines, I mean, it shouldn't. be-
Right, I don't know how many, it comes to how many of them they made. You know, there's a specific name for the part, I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the part, but in just 4 hours, this guy found what the other guys couldn't find, and I don't know how many times, then our dealings with him are done.
And it wasn't an original part of.
No, it's not what
You
came
can
on
switch
the
from a
generator.
distributor to electronic ignition.
Right,
Which is more current, so I'm sure they can find some
Yeah.
parts.
When we went out to bid on that, I remember that I asked George Allen about it, and it was such a huge engine, and he said that was a really huge block engine. It's an industrial engine that can run for weeks at a time. And he said that engine should last for years and years, but, you know, it was like custom made. It was, you know, a company made those generators
right.
for industrial sites, so it's not like it was off the shelf type of thing, you know.
Yep.
They made it specifically to run long periods of time, like places like this.
We're on the right track now.
Okay, good. Walnut Street tank.
So the hydrant's in. We're ordering looms so we can, you know, clean up behind ourselves. Then it'll just be a matter of, I can flush it, but I guarantee you that the thing will fail out at some point if I bring it back online.
Have to disinfect it after.
I mean, unless I
Right now?
flush that thing every time, but you can't do that either. So, I mean, I can't chlorinate it because it'll create the DSP's such byproducts. Because it doesn't move, so it would sit there.
Well, again, that was when they were here that time.
Right.
We sat down, they're supposed to
Yeah,
also
they haven't
be
come back,
coming
so
up.
when
The tree needs to be shaken.
if I can't get through his voicemail, then I'll call Molly, that's the other.
Molly was the co-president.
Yep.
Yeah, because that was the deal.
Right.
She's the one to go to if we're not getting.
If I don't hear from him by tomorrow morning when I look at my computer, then I'll.
You just gotta stay on them.
Yep.
Okay.
The problem with being Little West Bridgewater is you don't.
Right.
Anything else that could be brought up legally at this meeting that somebody wants to bring up?
Just what was in the minutes about leak detection, how are we making out with leak detection?
So they're supposed to start, I'll give him a call, but they were supposed to start sometime this month.
This month?
Yeah.
What is their plan, do you know? or-
Well, they'll begin walking the streets and listening and
I
correlating.
mean, we've had it done before, and they missed stuff.
Yeah, but so the ones that we had free from Mass Rural Water, truly, they were on the hydrant right near where it was. And
Where the leak on Manley Street was.
Yeah. These guys, this is all these guys do
You
for
got
a
leak
living.
protection on yours?
Say that again? No, I wrote it down off the.
Oh, okay, I'm saying, I don't see leak
No.
Yeah,
protection.
no.
I wrote it down.
I got a different agenda.
That's what they do for a living.
No, I just following up on it. We
And
talked
they have
I got you, okay.
recommendations, it's
We
not,
talked about it last week, so you think they're gonna start this month?
yeah.
Okay.
No, they are supposed to.
I still drive under the bridge there on South Elm
So
Street.
watch when it doesn't rain for a long period of time
It's
and
still
it'll
wet.
dry up. I can't dig in there because there's a
I'm
duck
just
bank.
saying, I've been through there when it's dry, the water on
Yeah.
the sides of the road's way down, and that road's wet.
Right, no, we did, you can see our patch there, we did dig it up.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon,
I still-
bye.
All right, thank you very much.
I'll talk again.
I swear, I mean,
It's not, it does dry up and stop at times when it goes, when we were in the drought before we got all the rain, it has to do with the highway. And I don't know how,
Manny,
but I can't dig and explore because they're,
no, I'm
and
not saying to, I just.
Comcast and the electric company didn't even mark out their duck banks. We knew it was there because it was in our drawings.
Just something to watch, and maybe it's coming
Right.
through their duck banks, I don't know, but it's just something to watch, that's all.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what they find.
And maybe point them over there and just say, you know.
Right.
Okay, do I hear a motion then?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Well, you made a motion.
Yeah.
Second.
Made the motion,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting.
Okay.